And where am I looking?
You want to look here. Here,
Okay.
yeah, because I'm trying to. All right, I'm good.
We are now joined by number 3 ranked UFC heavyweight Curtis Blaydes. Curtis, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
Our first questions goes to Gabriel Gonzalez from Cage Side Press.
Hello, Curtis. First question off the bat. Obviously, this was one of the big main events that had been scheduled and then moved because of the pandemic. Can you just talk about what the adjustments were like to have to essentially do another half of your camp?
It wasn't really a big deal for me. The longer the camp, the better my conditioning gets. The pandemic really didn't affect my training schedule. I still had all my sparring partners, my coaches. We still had the use of, the limited use of a couple of our team facilities. So it's been a smooth camp. I mean, as smooth as it can be.
What's the thing that makes Volkov dangerous that he brings to the table?
He's got long legs and he knows how to use his reach and likes to keep distance. So those are the main things that we've been focusing on, and that's what I think he's the best at.
Now, this fight is obviously very important in terms of the title picture. They just announced that the heavyweight title is finally going to be back in play in August. What's it been like to just, you're doing work in the division and now finally you're a step closer to the belt getting sorted out and possibly your own title shot?
I'm just happy to know that they got it all signed out. The contracts are signed and it's going to happen officially. It gives me the ability to project my own trajectory into the future.
Final one from me. Who do you have winning the trilogy, DC or Stipe?
I don't know. I mean, they've already fought twice and they've gone 1-1. So honestly, I don't really care. I've heard DC is going to retire, win, lose, or draw. And I've also heard reports that Stipe has also been contemplating retirement. And I think I would lean towards him also retiring. So it really doesn't matter to me who wins. I can honestly care less.
Thank you, Curtis.
Our next question is from Ezekiel Berganzi from Super Luchas.
Hello, Curtis. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Fine, thanks. You are facing Alexander Volkov, who said that he's going to rely in his striking to fight against you and your wrestling abilities. What do you think about that? How are you approaching for this fight in that sense?
I mean, my game plan is always the same. It's a pretty universal game plan. Pressure, pace, wrestling, ground and pound. Doesn't matter who you are. Cain Velasquez, Stipe, DC, Volkov. It works on everyone.
And do you think that the small cage will be an important factor for you putting your game plan on the fight, or do you think it's not a matter of the octagon at all?
Well, I think, like I said, my game plan, it will work in a small octagon or a big octagon, but I think it will be that much more effective in a smaller octagon because you won't have as much room to maneuver away and to keep distance. It'll be easier to close the gap and get in his face.
And my last question is how it was this training camp in pandemic and with all what happened, how it was training, how it was the sparring sessions. Can you tell us about that?
It was pretty much the same. I had my sparring partners. We sparred at the same time in the same spots. So I know a lot of people are under the impression that because of the pandemic, it's hard to train. But for me, it was pretty much the same. Nothing about my camp was altered.
Thank you, Curtis, and good luck on Saturday.
Up next, we'll have Alistair Bishop from MMA Republic.
Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Curtis, if I can, I just want to kind of get your opinion on the outlook of the heavyweight division. Your only losses come to Francis Ngannou. Where do you see yourself here with the win? I mean, I think Francis is knocking on that number one contender status. Once the title picture is done, where do you see yourself fitting into that picture?
I guess it depends on what happens with Stipe. If he decides to retire, then it'll be a vacant belt, and most likely Ngannou versus me for that vacant belt. If he decides to not retire, then it'll be Ngannou versus Stipe. I'll just wait my turn.
And how do you see? It would seem, in my opinion, the picture looks like that we might see yourself versus Francis a third time. How do you see that playing out, and what difference would there be?
I see myself winning. I see myself taking him down like I did in our first fight, and this time landing heavy ground and pound.
So do you think the key to beating Francis would be implementing your wrestling?
I use my wrestling on everyone.
And what do you say to critics of that sort of lay and pray style? I mean, your wrestling style is way more exciting. No, I'm not saying yours. I'm just saying guys hit out, they'll say lay and pray sort of style. Yours is high impact wrestling and very effective. And one of the more exciting things about your style is that we know what to expect, and you still are able to implement that game plan. But what do you say to critics that criticize a heavy wrestling sort of approach?
And if you don't like it, you don't got to watch.
Fantastic. That's all from me. Best of luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask you a few, Cruz.
Sure.
So one of the biggest aspects of your game that we've seen in all of your fights is dominance. You know, what's something about your fighting style that just people break under your pressure and everything that you do?
Because nobody likes to wrestle. It's hard to build up the muscle memory that it takes to defend the type of pressure I'm bringing. It's grueling, it's grinding, and guys don't want to do it. Guys want to just have space and huck haymakers at each other because it takes a lot less energy. When a guy is hanging on you and making your arms tired, making your back tired, making your neck tired, they get tired and they don't want to be there no more.
Is there a point in your fights typically where you feel your opponent kind of break under that type of pressure?
Yeah, it usually happens in the second round. I don't really have I don't think I've ever gotten anyone out in the first round because that's not my game. My game's based off attrition. It will wear you out. And they usually break somewhere in that second round. Like my fight with Alistair, I laid on him the first round. I laid on him the second round. And then the third round, when I felt that his arms weren't very strong anymore, I was able to get my elbows loose and land a couple of those.
Have you seen anything in Volkov's past fights that indicate, hey, maybe that is an opportunity for me in this fight that I can take advantage of? He does have that ability to break.
I think everyone has that ability to break because there's no one else in this division that has my wrestling pedigree. They're not built for this. I'm built to grind out guys for 15 to 25 minutes.
My last question is, plenty's obviously made about your wrestling and your dominance in that. And we've seen your striking evolve too. That's something that I want to point out. And how have you been able to build that? And how do you think it's going to assist you in this matchup with Volkov?
My striking is organically growing off my wrestling. My striking coach, I've been blessed to meet him, Vinny Lopez, and he was able to adapt and give me combos and footwork that blended into my striking, like my high-lows. That's based off wrestling. The high-low doesn't work if you can't wrestle. Guys won't respect it. That's how I got Junior. Like if you don't respect the wrestling, then I'll come back up top with the overhand.
Up next, we'll go to Georgi Kokashvili from Ajara Sport. Your line has been unmuted.
Oh, thank you so much, Curtis. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Thank you. I feel good. Curtis, are you looking to fight at the stand, or are you considering to fight at grappling? Because we have seen you have done great against Junior Dos Santos, 2 rounds to KO, and do you think it will be hard to done it again against Volkov?
I mean, that's up to him. Had you asked me before the Junior Dos Santos, I would have told you I was going to take him down and ragdoll him. Obviously, that didn't happen, but it opened up other opportunities to strike. So I'm adaptable. Like if he wants to commit his whole defense to stopping my wrestling, I'll strike. If he doesn't want to commit his whole defense to stopping my wrestling, that's the only way you can stop it. You have to commit everything to it. If you don't do that, then I will take you down. So it's pretty much pick your poison.
Thank you. And my last question is about Francis Ngannou. Are you looking to fight again against him, because you lost the fight against Francis Ngannou, and this fight looks like for me like a semifinal for you to reach the title shot? And do you consider it as if Cormier and Miocic have done, and you are next?
I mean, I do believe Ngannou is next, and then I'm right behind him. So I knew we would fight again after I lost the last one. Like I was only 27 years old then. I'm 29 now. I'm gonna be here for a long time, so this was inevitable. And I don't view Ngannou the way everyone else does. I guess because I've already been in there with him twice, and I'm alive still. Like everyone else thinks he's Godzilla and he'll just destroy you. I don't view him that way. I view him as a man. He has pros in his game and he has cons in his game. One of his biggest cons is lack of conditioning and lack of grappling ability. So those are the things I'll target when we do fight again.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best on such day.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Calvin Crandall from MMA Power Hour.
Hey, Curtis, how are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. So this is a rare, taller opponent for you at 6'7". Does that present any interesting problems for you? Have you had anybody that tall that you've been able to train with, or do you have anyone like that now?
Yeah, I've worked with taller guys. It doesn't make a difference. When you're on your back, we're all the same height.
Okay. Obviously, he's a striker, and he's a pretty decorated striker, maybe not the most in the division, but one of the more decorated strikers. How much can he do to adjust his game, to you? Everyone knows that one of the goals you'll have is to take him down. Can he make a great deal of improvement, and does he have any chance of continuing to shut down your takedowns?
You don't get my wrestling in a few months. That's why it's so good. I've been doing this for a long time, since 2005. You don't get my wrestling in a few months, so I don't think there's anything he can do about that. If I'm him, I'm looking to come out hard and fast and get me out of there early, because the longer it goes, the worse it gets for him.
Gotcha. Now, at 29 years old, you're one of the younger fighters in the heavyweight division. That puts you in a good position. How do you feel physically? Do you feel you're at your best yet? You're at your prime or at your peak, or not even quite there yet?
No, I know I haven't peaked out yet. This isn't my final evolution. There's a lot that I haven't added yet into my training. I look forward to growing. I know I've got at least 8 or 9 more years, and there's going to be a lot of growth over these next couple of years.
Absolutely. Last question for me. Neither of you guys are known for being high-level jiu-jitsu guys, but if you get into some interesting scrambles in the ground, if he's able to move around and start trying to throw up some triangles or arm bars, how do you feel your jiu-jitsu compares with his?
I think I'm the better grappler overall. Like, my jiu-jitsu isn't offensive based. I go to jiu-jitsu practice to learn how to pass and to learn how to get into positions to land heavy ground and pound. I'm not ever going to look for a submission unless you're just like the worst grappler in the world. I'd rather get in half guard and hang out in half guard and just elbow you. I don't need to go for a Kimura or Darce. I don't need that stuff.
You feel comfortable with your submission defense?
Yes, very, very comfortable, especially since Alistair's been at Team Elevation the last year and a half.
Definitely some good training I hear you're getting with Alistair. Well, I appreciate your time a lot. Wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you.
And our last question will come from Heidi Feng from Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Hi, Curtis. Thank you for the time. I first wanted to ask about some records here that you could possibly eclipse come Saturday night, one of them being Randy Couture's time in the cage as a heavyweight. You would need 8 minutes, 17 seconds, as far as I've read, to be able to surpass the amount of time that he fought in the cage. I want to know what that means to you and just how different records, like what you set with your wrestling in the heavyweight division with 45 takedowns, and you had already surpassed Cain Velasquez, what these records mean to you as you go on your journey.
They just mean it validates the argument that I am the best grappler. I know there are other good grapplers, good wrestlers, good jiu-jitsu players, but I'm the best at it. I'm going to break a lot more records.
Also, I know that you hail from Chicago as well as Denver. Your father is a police officer. Your brother is a police officer. You have come out to speak about systemic racism and Black Lives Matter and the protests. I wanted to get from you your take on everything that's happening, especially being that you do have family who are police officers out there in Chicago right now.
Well, obviously, I'm pro Black Lives Matter. I do feel like there is systemic racism, especially with all the police brutality that has been targeted towards the black community. But I've been very happy to see all the protests and see that the majority of the crowds, it seems like it's like 65% young white Americans, and that means that their eyes have been open, their ears are open, they hear our cries, they know about the plight of the black community, and they're willing to help. They're willing to risk their own freedoms and to risk being injured and whatnot, and maybe getting arrested. And that just restores my faith in humanity. Like, it lets me know that there is hope, and I know that this movement won't get off the ground without the white community helping out. Like, we need to be together, and that's just been one of the most inspiring things about these protests as of late. Just a huge support coming out of the white community.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you today, Curtis. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Curtis.
Up next, we will be joined by number 8 ranked UFC featherweight Josh Emmett. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you are done. We're now joined by number 8 ranked UFC featherweight Josh Emmett. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Okay, our first question goes to Alistair Bishop. Your line has been unmuted, Alistair.
Josh, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Just a quick one. Shane Burgos, the guy who's really sought up the ranks similar to yourself. What do you make of him as an opponent?
I think he's a great test. You know, he's definitely a rising star. He's a tough opponent. Yeah, super well-rounded fighter. So, you know, I'm excited for the fight. I think the fans are super excited for the fight. And like I keep saying, fireworks are coming early this year.
Fantastic. And how's the old finger holding up?
It's doing good, man. That was a little over 4 years ago. So the knuckle's still a little swollen. Can't wear my wedding ring. I can't bend it all the way, but you know, just like anything, I adapted to it, and it doesn't give me any problem. I just hope that never happens again.
Well, I think half the internet who had to see that picture hopes it never happens again either. What I just want to say, what would you say to fans that can expect from you come fight night?
Yeah, the fans that are fans of mine, you know, they're always excited when I'm on the card, you know, because they know I'm going to fight. They're going to be in for something special. I'm always looking to finish the fight. It doesn't matter if it's the first punch I throw or the last punch, buzzer beater, and the third. I possess the power to finish the fight at any point, and I will be looking for the finish.
Thank you so much, man. All the best of luck.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next question comes from Jay Anderson from Cage Side Press. Jay, your line has been unmuted.
Very much. And Josh, welcome back. I mean, you've had a couple of misfires with fights this year in January, and then the Barboza fight being canceled because of the pandemic. How frustrating has it been to spend almost another year on the sidelines after already having been out a lengthy stretch in the past?
Yeah, it's super frustrating. You know, I've been in the UFC just over 4 years now. I've been sidelined over 2 years of that. I want to stay as active as possible, but it is kind of a blessing in disguise that I got injured with the Allen fight because I was going to fight out my contract, and who knows where I'd be at this point with the pandemic. As far as the Barboza fight goes, I was, you know, it wasn't really a thing. You know, it was mentioned, but you know, I wasn't going to be there because I wasn't asked. Or I didn't get a bout agreement or anything like that. But, you know, I've been training hard during this whole time. I feel like, you know, I'm really coming into my own. And, you know, even with age and getting into this sport later than most, I feel like I have a really good 4 or 5 years, possibly even longer. But I feel like I have a few years to make a run at that title. And I feel like this is my time. And, you know, I'm hungrier and I'm a hungry fighter. I hear about these people talking about all these hungry fighters and stuff like that. I'm one of the most hungry fighters. I just don't get the chances, the opportunities that everyone else is. But hey, I've never said no to a fight. Anytime they call me, they already know my answer.
And it's been about a month since we learned about the fight with Shane. How much of a camp have you had? Because obviously, like I said, there were other fights. I don't know if you've been in and out of camp or if you stayed going the whole time. And what's it looked like with the pandemic and the social gathering restrictions?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. You know, it was a 4-week notice, so I had a hard 3 weeks, and then, you know, I come out to Vegas and start the fun part, you know, the weight cut. So it's sooner than I would have liked, but especially being from Sacramento and, you know, California with our governor and everything, we're just the shelter in place, and the quarantine is pretty strict, you know. So there's still some counties, I think they just lifted the ban. So it has been tough. Our gym's been closed the whole time. I'm just fortunate enough that, you know, I have a little setup in my garage, you know, with a treadmill and bags. So I've been getting workouts there. And I was just doing one-on-ones with, you know, my boxing coach, Joey Rodriguez, Danny Castillo, Chris Holdsworth, my strength coach, Darren Draven, and really just working on myself, you know, doing individualized things. And I feel like I grew a lot from the quarantine and during this time. And I feel a lot better than I typically do as well. So if I can go in there and perform the way I believe I'm going to Saturday night, this could be a new norm. You know, my biggest thing was when this all started back in mid-March. I was like, I'm going to come out better than I went into the quarantine. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't make any excuses to, not fight. I worked my ass off, and it's going to show Saturday night.
What do you think of the UFC Apex? You've both got the lack of a crowd there, and you've also got the smaller cage, which a lot of people have been talking about. How do you think that comes into play in this fight?
Yeah, I think it benefits me. It's going to be a little odd. You know, I've got to go on the Ultimate Fighter and help coach a season when Faber and McGregor were the coaches. So I know exactly what it's like on the outside. But being a competitor and actually being in the fight, you know, it's a fight. I'm going to be focused. I'm super coachable. I hear my coaches. I hear my opponents' coaches all the time. I can even hear some of my high school and college coaches that still come to my fights. I can hear them in the crowd. Just, you know, so it's not going to affect me at all. In the small cage, West Coast Fighting Championship, where I came from on the regional scene, I was their lightweight champion. That is a small cage. It was like a 20-foot cage or something like that. So it's like you take a step or two, you're in the center. It's like fighting in a phone booth. You know, it forces you to fight. And I had some amazing, exciting fights there. And we also train in a 20-foot cage at, you know, Team Alpha Male headquarters. So it's like during this whole thing, we've had our small group that we've been drilling in there. We've been sparring in there. We have just our coaches. So I think we have the advantage going into this fight just because, you know, I'm a cerebral fighter too. I've been visualizing all this. That's one thing that it's not going to affect me at all. As soon as the bell rings, you know, I'll be ready to rock.
And last one for me, you've said going into this that you need more, or that you deserve more attention. What is the key to getting it? Is it just going out and getting the finish, or do you need to go, you know, above and beyond, show more of your personality, do, you know, the talking route that we see some guys do?
No, it's just, you know, this is a fight game. Like, I understand all the, you know, trash talk and stuff, but that's not me. You know, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to look to finish the fight. I'm exciting every time I fight, whatever I'm doing, you know. So I feel like, you know, a big win Saturday night and I make another statement, I feel like, you know, then I'll get that push I deserve. I want someone in front of me this time instead of trying to be the gatekeeper and fighting all these prospects and all these vets and all these guys that are behind me. I want someone towards the top, you know, but that means absolutely nothing. I just have to obviously beat a tough opponent that's standing in front of me on Saturday night, and I get my hand raised, and we'll sit back and kind of see what happens and then go from there. But no, I'm not going to create some character. I didn't go to acting school or anything like that. I'm here to fight, and that's what I do.
Fair enough. Well, looking forward to Saturday. Best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our next question comes from Mike Bond from USA Today Sports. Mike, your line has been unmuted.
Josh, I just want to clarify something you said a little bit earlier there about potentially going into the pandemic, like finishing your contract and stuff. Is this the last fight on your current contract?
No, I actually, with the Burgos fight, we were able to ink a new 4-fight deal, so that I'm happy with, and so I have a new set of contract.
Very nice. So was that something that you were kind of mulling over? Was there any consideration of fighting it out and maybe seeing what you were kind of worth on the open market?
That's what I was going to do in January. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, I want to fight for the UFC. It's the biggest platform. It's, in my opinion, the best organization in the world. And I only set out to fight in the UFC from the get-go. That was a goal of mine. I didn't want to fight for any other organization. I got offered to, but it was UFC or nothing for me. And I'm here, and I'm so close to one of my goals. So I'm going to keep on going.
Yeah, obviously in a great spot here. And if you kind of look at your stats coming into this fight, I mean, 8 knockdowns in 5 featherweight fights. The only person with more knockdowns than you in the division is Jeremy Stevens, and he has about 3 times as many fights as you in this division. Do you think you're the biggest knockdown, hitting threat in this weight class right now?
Yeah, I've always said I feel like I'm the hardest hitting puncher in the featherweight division. Even I saw some other stats that just came out, and it was, in 15 minutes, I averaged 2.68 knockdowns, and that's number one spot. But no, I feel like the power I possess. I've been an athlete my entire life. I'm good at whatever I do, but I excelled at wrestling. I excel in mixed martial arts, and you know, anything can happen in a fight. But I do feel like, yeah, I'm just the most athletic individual in the division as well.
So how do you balance that in terms of, approach and strategy in these fights? You obviously know that you can put anyone out with one shot, but you don't want to rely 100% on that and expecting it to happen. So when you're kind of balancing those things going into a fight, what's the approach there?
Just sticking to my game plan. Like I feel like I come from one of the best teams in the world for the lighter weights. I work with some of the best coaches in the world. And if I can just stick to a game plan, I can be 100% on, not make any mistakes in this 15 minutes. And the best me shows up Saturday night. No one in the world can beat me.
Awesome. And just last thing before I let you go here, we do have a featherweight title fight coming up here in just a few weeks. How do you think it goes down between Volkanovski and Holloway in their rematch?
Man, it's I was saying all along, I think, like, obviously Max is he was a phenomenal champion. He's they're saying he was the GOAT, and then Volkanovski comes in, and every time he fights, he does better and better. But I think stylistically, I was saying Volkanovski was going to win from the get-go, just because stylistically, I don't think that's a great matchup for Max. Don't get me wrong, anything can happen. I always say that in a fight, especially when they're standing, it's 50-50. But I think it's going to be the same outcome. Just from a stylistically point of view.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you.
Well, have a good one.
That's all we have for you today, Josh. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Up next, we will be joined by Raquel Pennington. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you're done.
This camera or this thing?
This one here.
I'm like, there's two things on me here.
That's just so they can see you and ask questions, and then we send this one.
Okay, we're now joined by number 6 ranked UFC women's bantamweight, Raquel Pennington. Raquel, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Our first question is from Gabriel Gonzalez. Gabriel, your line has been muted.
Good morning, Raquel. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So the obvious question, you are fighting on the same card as your wife, Tisha Torres. Can you just talk about the mentality to, obviously your significant other on the same card has to be very different than when it's just you or just her when you come to fight week?
It's super exciting for me. I'm actually I have been trying to convince Tisha for years now to get on the same card as me. And she's like, no, I can't do it. She's more emotional than I am. So for her, it was just like more stressful. Even though I worry about her, I have all the faith in the world in her. So I was just like, let's do it. And she's like, no. They actually called and they offered her a fight for last week. And then they offered me the fight for this week. And then she got brave enough to push it and ask for the same day. So, I mean, it's been a solid week and just, it's fun. Like, we both have the same goal right now.
What was it that changed her mind to push it so she could be on the same card as you finally?
I think she sat back and thought about it. We originally met in 2012 fighting on the same card. And then the last card we fought on together was in 2016 in Tampa. That was her rematch against Rose. And then I fought Betch Correa. So she was just like, oh, we can go every 4 years now. So we went 2012, 2016, now 2020.
Nice. Obviously, you're looking to get back to the win column. Can you just talk about, what the last few months has been like in terms of going back to camp and readjusting and working on your game?
Quarantine for me has been extremely fun. I know it's been tough on a lot of people, but for me, I didn't realize how much I actually needed to slow down and kind of just focus on myself. So being stuck at the house, I got a lot of things done that I haven't had time to do because I was constantly training or in school and just not able to focus on other parts of my life. So I just kind of took the break and I was doing all those things and then hanging out with my family and spending a lot of quality time, which just kind of, I feel like it reset my soul. Like I sat back, chilled, and then I know UFC, like the sports world, they were pushing a lot of fights and there was things airing left and right. So I was able to actually watch a lot of my previous fights, to sit back and really watch those and look at them. I mean, it just kind of hit home for me and it brought a different perspective for me. So getting back into training camp, way more motivated, just extremely blessed and happy to be there. And I've discovered that a crash camp is the best for me.
I'm glad you brought up talking about your division. A lot of people wondering what could be next in the title picture. People talking about Aspen Ladd if she beats Sarah McMahon, Irene Aldana. In your opinion, what do you think will happen next?
You know, honestly, I think Aldana deserves the title shot. I was actually kind of annoyed to see her and Holly set up against each other just because that girl's been grinding, and I truly believe she's the one that deserves that shot. I know Amanda just fought, so it would put Aldana back a little bit longer to have a little bit of a layoff until Amanda's ready to fight again. But I think that should have been the next shot for her.
My final question, obviously, you know, when Amanda performs, there's a lot of hype about the women's GOAT and everything. She's finished so many opponents quickly. As her career has gone on, is it a bigger badge of honor for you for the fact that, hey, you know, you went those 5 rounds with her?
Oh, for sure. You know, I mean, I take pride in that. You know, no excuses. Amanda's a badass fighter. She does everything that she's supposed to. She's a champion for a reason. I just feel like I'm in a different place now, as opposed to coming back. I had a really hard layoff and then coming back and going straight into the biggest fight of my career with Amanda, coming off a broken leg, all the things. And then a lot of people don't even realize how I was feeling in that fight. I mean, that girl caught my leg at the very beginning of it, and I felt like I was in survival mode. And that's one thing that I looked back on during this quarantine, was I was able to actually watch the fight and the emotions I've been carrying from that fight since 2018 to actually watching it. I was like, man, there's nothing but pride there. Like, I'm super proud of everything for knowing exactly how I felt and seeing actually how I performed. Like, it felt 100% different in my mind. And so to actually see it, like, I'm ready for round 2.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Ezekiel Berganzi from Super Luchas.
Hey, hello, Raquel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. And how it was this training camp? Because you said you have time to focus, no, in your personal aspects, and besides that, which was the main difference between the Holly Holm camp and this one?
This one was 4 weeks long, and Holly was about 6 months long. It was extended out way too long, so that's the main difference.
And which aspects of your game you try to polish, no, for this fight on Saturday?
You know, I just focused on all aspects. I have a huge toolbox, and for a while I was only opening a couple drawers to it. So I decided just to open the entire thing and sharpen all my tools, play around, have some fun. And I mean, that was the biggest key there, was getting back to having fun. When you're not having fun, it's really not worth it. Like, you're not going to perform to your maximum potential.
And what do you think about your opponent? Do you have the chance to study her and see how the game plan she brings in every fight?
Oh, of course. I mean, being a female athlete and knowing the struggles that we went through to get to where we're all at today. I mean, I've watched all these girls from a lot of their first fights and so on. So, I mean, we obviously know what she's about and stuff and whatnot, but my main focus was just focusing on me.
And Amanda talked about a possible retirement. And what do you think will happen with the division after, if she, relinquished her titles? What will happen with the bantamweight division, in your opinion?
There's a lot of talent in this division. So, I mean, everybody wants where Amanda's at. We're all going to be fighting for it. I mean, Amanda's career is what it is. She's done some wonderful things for herself. And then, of course, she has a baby on the way and whatnot. But In my opinion, I don't think she's done fighting.
Thank you very much, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Mike Bond from USA Today Sports.
Hey Raquel, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Happy to finally track you down here. I want to circle back to the beginning part when you're talking a little bit about fighting on the same card as Tisha. What's the fight night plan look like? Because obviously this is a little bit different in terms of how long you guys got brought to the Apex in terms of like before your fight and everything. Are you even going to watch your fight before yours? Like what's kind of the approach on fight night with you two?
Oh, most definitely. She fights, I think it's 3 or 4 fights before me. We both we have the same coaches, but I got a third coach just so that way we can hang back, and then of course we'll watch Tisha's fight, and he'll ride over with me to the Apex, and then we'll meet the other coaches there. But I mean, that's pretty much it. She goes out and performs first, and then I think it works best for her because, like I said before, she's super emotional, so she won't have to stress about me until after she's done.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned you feel that having the compacted training camp has benefited you a lot. Can you just go into a little more details as of why? Is it just because, maybe it doesn't give you as much time to maybe overtrain and potentially overthink the scenario you're going into?
Exactly. I mean, the longer the camps are, they just get exhausting. Training, fighting, it's a ton on the body. It's a ton on your mentality, emotional state, everything. So it's just like, I came out of quarantine and it was like fun and exciting to get back into the gym and move around. And then on top of that, just to work towards a goal. The biggest concern there was just the weight. I mean, I was hanging out, I was enjoying life and whatnot. So it was just like, okay, well, if I can knock off the weight, then hey, that's the worst part in this. But, like you said, it doesn't give you time to play with your emotions. It doesn't give you time to get exhausted. I mean, of course, coming out of quarantine, I was super sore and everything the first week, but then the entire camp was just super fun. So I like the crash camps. I did that a few years ago in my rematch with Jessica Andrade before she dropped divisions. They called us on like a 3-week notice. And let me tell you, I was on like a 7-month vacation, but then just to do a 3-week fight camp was just so much fun. So I actually prefer the shorter camps.
Awesome. And last thing, and I hope this doesn't come across as disrespectful to Marion, but you do look at your record and like the past 5 opponents you fought, it's all either current or former champions, and then Irene, who's seemingly in a title eliminator against Holly. This is, it would seem on paper, a bit of a step back in competition. How do you think that's going to allow you to shine on fight night?
Hey, I mean, everybody on this platform, they're here for a reason and whatnot. She is ranked number 10, so I'm not looking past her at all, and a fight's a fight and anything can happen. But with that being said, I mean, I'm super excited for this fight and just for this opportunity and to get back out there. Like I said, quarantine for me was a huge reset, and to actually step back and look in the mirror. I mean, sometimes there's parts of us that we don't really want to look at, and I took that time to look at those things and process a lot of emotions in my career and the different things. And now I just feel like completely different. And this is this atmosphere is going back to 2013 for me with The Ultimate Fighter. And it was like, I put on a highlight performance with Jessamine Duke. We won fight of the season on there. So overall, I'm freaking ecstatic for this fight.
Awesome. Thanks, Raquel. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Damon Martin with MMA Fighting.
Hey Raquel, your last fight with Holly Holm, I know it was a very frustrating fight for you the way it played out. And you just mentioned your fight with Jessamine, fight of the season. You're known for having exciting fights. How frustrating was that fight? And do you carry that over into a fight like this? Do you say, like, I want to go out and have a more exciting fight, or hope that Marion is kind of a more willing opponent?
That was a one-of-a-kind fight. I was pretty bitter on that one. And, like, I'm not a poor sport or anything like that, but I mean, I will be the first to admit, like, I was super bitter about that. It was a fight that I wanted for 5 years. I wanted that rematch, and then just to go out there, and we had such a huge opportunity. We were on a huge card. We were the co-main event, and then for it to go out there and play the way it did, like, I mean, a fight's a fight. Anything can happen, but like, that fight was just, I don't even want to call it a fight. That hug match was really frustrating. And it kind of just like, that was one of the ones. It was funny because back when I originally fought her, I was like, man, I should have beat this chick. So it kind of lit the flame. And then I went on my winning streak. And then I had a setback with going into my surgeries and everything else, and then coming back in that. And then now all of a sudden that fight did the same thing again. I was like, oh, it lit the flame all over again. So now it's just like, there's a new fire burning. And for sure, I definitely want a different performance come Saturday.
Does that, I mean, obviously, anytime you lose a fight, you want a chance to, avenge that loss. And I remember the first fight with Holly was so close, razor close, split decision, if I'm not mistaken. But now, you probably won't revisit that fight. Is that kind of maybe even more frustrating knowing that you probably won't get a third fight? Or would you even want a third fight with Holly?
Oh, for sure. I would want a third fight. But, it is what it is. That's the sport for you. It goes whatever way. And there's areas in that fight that I definitely should have capitalized in those moments when we separated and whatnot. But it's one of the ones, you learn from it. And there's a difference between losing and actually taking a serious loss. So there was a difference in that fight. Holly beat me with using her leverage on me. And it's just one of the ones to where the frustration came in. But hey, the past is the past. So let's throw it out the window. It's going to be 10 times more exciting in the future. And here's my new opportunity come Saturday.
Do you feel like Marion is that kind of willing opponent who is going to give you a fight, who's going to bring the fight to you, which obviously then gives you more opportunities to create more offense, things like that?
Oh yeah, she likes to come out. She definitely likes to strike and do stuff. So I think it's going to be a fun scrap.
You mentioned a minute ago, everyone talked about Amanda Nunes saying she may retire. I think a lot of people are believing that, taking time off, probably not retiring, but you said you don't think she's retiring either. I'll ask you the question, why? Do you just believe it's just a matter of the timing of the fight coming off and she just wants to take some time off? Or why do you believe she's going to fight again?
So there's a couple things. I mean, Amanda's accomplished so many things in her career to where, yeah, is she satisfied and can she walk away? For sure. But at the same time, I mean, she's still young. She's in her prime. And I mean, right now, I think it's just she has a baby on the way. Her and Nina got married and stuff, and she's building her family. So she's focusing on a different part of her life currently, which is completely fine. I mean, sometimes you get so surrounded by the fight game and lost in it, but now she's looking into a different part. But I think inside, the fighting's still there. She's not ready to fully give it up. Does she want the time off? Sure. And then probably in a few months, once it's said and done, she's going to be like, oh man, she's going to have that itch again. It's kind of one of those things to where, when do we all know when it's going to be time to actually retire? And as you see previously, a lot of the athletes, they go into retirement, but then here they are a year later back out of it. So she's not done.
Thanks, Raquel.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for you today, Raquel. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Up next, we will be joined by UFC welterweight Belal Muhammad. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions.
The longer the camp, the better my conditioning gets. The pandemic really didn't affect my training schedule. I still had all my sparring partners, my coaches. We still had the use of, the limited use of a couple of our team facilities. So it's been a smooth camp. I mean, as smooth as it can be.
What's the thing that makes Volkov dangerous that he brings to the table?
He's got long legs and he knows how to use his reach and likes to keep
they have to keep the mask
distance.
on? Okay.
We are now joined by UFC welterweight Belal Muhammad. Belal, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Our first question comes from Colin Crandall with MMA Power Hour.
How you doing, Belal?
Good. How you doing?
Doing very well. Happy to talk to you. So this is a pretty big fight for you. You've been doing really well. It seems like the couple fights that you didn't win were against guys like yourself that are just amazingly talented. How do you feel Lyman Good stacks up? Obviously, you don't want to overlook him, but what kind of a challenge do you think he presents?
I mean, he's a tough guy. He has his strengths and he has his weaknesses, but to me, I feel like I have many more ways to win this fight. I feel like his only way of winning this fight is catching me and trying to knock me out. For me, I could do anywhere. I could outstrike him. I could out-grapple him. I could out-wrestle him. I could do whatever I want in this fight. I feel like, but like you said, you don't want to be overconfident, but I'm very confident right now. I feel like I'm gonna make a statement out there now, especially with the platform we're on. We're the only sport on, so I want to go out there and make a name for myself right now.
Absolutely. Speaking about the wrestling and grappling, it seems like a lot of fighters have been trying to be entertaining by just getting out there and striking. One of the things that a lot of people notice is a lot of guys who are really high-level wrestlers just seems like they don't want to get out there and wrestle. Is there anything like that fighters hear, or that you're told from management, or that you feel your promoters are thinking that they just would rather you guys not wrestle too much?
No, I mean, there's nothing like that. Like, there's nobody telling you that, but like you hear the crowd. You'll get go on social media nowadays where everybody has an opinion. They'll tell you about your style, what they think of you, and you want to put on. We're at the entertainment business, so you want to entertain too. So you don't want to just sit there and lay and pray and just hold. Wrestling could be exciting. Look, it could be one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. So it's all based on how much work you're doing with that wrestling. So like, there's guys that'll sit there and push you to the fence, hold you there, make it a boring fight, and just let the time waste. But for me, I want to go out there and still put on an exciting fight. Even though there's no fans in the crowd, I know there's going to be a bunch of people watching at home, and I want them to, after my fight, be like, man, when's his next fight? When's his next fight? When's his next fight?
Absolutely. Speaking about the crowd, how unusual is it going to be for you to fight with no crowd? Is it going to benefit you at all? What are some of the positives and the negatives, if any, about having that kind of silence and no crowd there and hearing your corner as clear as you probably will?
Yeah, I feel like that'll be the biggest thing, is just hearing the corner very clearly. But just coming off my Abu Dhabi fight, man, just the energy down there and the crowd out there was crazy. It was like every punch I would land, the crowd would go nuts. So it's going to be a big difference now. Maybe I'll convince Dana White to give me a couple of cheers every time I land a jab or something. But still, I mean, you can't tell until you get in there. I had a couple of teammates fight in there, and they said it's a different type of energy that you're going to feel when you get in there. So just be prepared for it. So I feel like it's not going to be one of those until I get in there that I'm really going to know how to react.
Absolutely. Last question from me. You're known as having one of the best senses of humor of all the fighters in the UFC. What percentage of fighters have a good sense of humor, would you say, in your experience?
Man, I think the percentage is low, man. It's, usually when you go to different things and meet a bunch of different fighters, everybody just has that attitude where their chest is up and they want to look at you tough, and you're like, relax, I'm a fighter too. Like, we don't need a fight right now. I'm not even in your weight class. But during this quarantine, it's been funny to see like different guys' personalities come out, because there was no fights on, so you couldn't show anything. So it was all about social media and how you interacted with fans and stuff like that, man. But honestly, one of the guys that I thought was hilarious that I didn't know was Darren Till, man. He got a follow from me after that. The guy's pretty funny.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it a lot. Look forward to another exciting fight from you, Belal.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Next question is from Jay Anderson with Cage Side Press.
Hey, thanks very much. And a couple of quick ones from me. First of all, Belal, it's kind of weird to see an upside in a pandemic, I guess, but do you feel there's some opportunities here? We see guys making quick turnarounds, in some cases a quicker path to the title even.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying, that a lot of these guys are losing opportunity right now, where they're using the pandemic and what's called to not fight so they can save the number next to their name. A lot of these ranked fighters don't want to fight right now. They're just sitting out. Oh, I can't train during this quarantine. I'm like, you're a UFC fighter. You get a key to a gym. You could go in there and train. There's a lot of things you could do. But I feel like a lot of guys are just using this time to be lazy or just trying to save their spot. But you see other guys like Gilbert Burns fighting twice, already fighting for the title. He's only been in the weight class literally for like 2 years, 4 fights, and now he's fighting for the title. It's just all about opportunity. And he was always ready for that opportunity. And that's what I want to be on. I'm healthy after this fight. I want to turn around right away and get back in there. You see guys like Dan Ige popping up right away, gives himself a main event. This is the time where you make a name for yourself, where we're the only sport on TV, and people need something to watch, and they're going to be paying attention to the guys that are actually in there fighting.
I mean, there's been criticism of the rankings for a while and how much they really mean, but do you think this is going to change things moving forward? Maybe after this, people will be more willing to take those kind of opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the rankings are trash. But like you said, where nowadays guys are just so afraid to fight below them. I don't want to fight below me. I don't want to fight below me. And then now as you see Dana White's like, all right, well, we're moving on to the next guy. Masvidal didn't want to fight. Moving on to the next guy. So now, as you can see, like even guys with that big a name, they're willing to pass up on them. So if you're freaking 10 or 11, they won't hesitate to pass up on you. So if you're not willing to say yes, then either don't fight or get out of the rankings.
And last one for me, I mean, when the fight with Lyman originally fell through and he announces he's tested positive for COVID-19, I mean, was there any thought on your part of saying, you know what, just find me someone else? Maybe, I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get over it and just kind of moving on from it? Or was it important to hold on to this matchup?
No, I actually I was looking for an opponent for April 18th card. When that card happened, that was like the craziest last week I've ever had. It was one of those where you don't know if the card is going to happen, with everybody saying, oh, COVID. Don't let this card go through. Don't let this card go through. Then Lyman pulled out, and I was like, oh, crap. And then UFC was like, well, we're looking for an opponent. So then I was like, all right, cool. I don't really care who it is. They'll throw out names, and I'm saying yes to everybody. And then you're still getting family and friends. Hey, you're not on the card. You're not on the card. What the heck? And I'm like, yo, relax. They're trying to give me an opponent. And you're cutting weight, and then you're still dealing with, man, is the fight going to fall through? And then Khabib pulled out, and you're like, oh, crap. But then they've got Justin, so you're like, all right, you know what? The card's still going to go through. Justin's a great replacement. But it was kind of like a sense of relief that the whole card just got canceled, because it was literally fight week, and I was sitting there not knowing who I'm fighting, not knowing if the fight card is going to happen, if it's going to get canceled on the day of, like the London card. But in the end, I thought they were going to end up giving me somebody else, but then they called me again, and they said,
Our last question comes from Stephen Morocco. Stephen, your line has been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. Just wanted to check in. What's going on with your father's store right now?
Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to shut it down after this. But we got other stuff where we're in the works with. Just opened up other doors for us, different opportunities for us. So we'll be all good.
What do you mean other opportunities?
I mean, now it gives us different places to now, my father built that store from the ground up, and it was one of those where he wanted to pass it on to his kids. And, the cell phone game, and then it was like a cell phone store, so in Chicago. So, but now we've always been looking into opening up different businesses, different this, different that. So now it gives us the opportunity to actually do that thing. Otherwise, you're sitting there procrastinating, like, oh, we still got the cell phone store, we still got this. We always have that to fall back on, but now it makes us push on the gas more a little about doing different things and getting into different markets. So other small businesses, things like that.
Gotcha. And what do you think overall of the success of the Black Lives Matter movement in your community?
I mean, it's not really successful until big changes happen. So it's not a community thing; it's a world thing that needs to be changed. So until stuff happens worldwide, then little small communities aren't going to change. So, but I feel like they're starting to make moves. Trump just signed that bill where officers now are going to be held accountable, where they make that database. So little small stuff like that, I feel like it's going to start changing. As you see, NBA players now are saying that they're not going to start the season until bigger changes happen. So I feel like now people are actually realizing how crazy this is and how much hurt people are going through. So I know the NFL, even the NFL coaches and stuff, they're stepping up. But even when Kaepernick did it, we wanted to really pay attention. But now that everybody's doing it, now that you have to do it, otherwise you're going to look bad. So hopefully people actually start making big changes.
And what prompted you to get involved with that video with Angela and Israel Adesanya?
What did you say?
Can you talk about how you got involved in that video with Angela Hill and Israel Adesanya?
Oh yeah, man. I'm all for the movement. Like I'm about change. And Randy Brown was setting it up. Randy Brown called me, messaged me, and asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And of course, I wanted to be a part of it. That was a big message, I feel like, and a big message for the UFC to show that where we stand and the fighters where we stand. And I thought it turned out great.
Did the UFC share that video on their account?
Yeah. The UFC did, and I think the ESPN MMA did.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Georgie Kookshewili. You have been unmuted.
Oh, thank you. First of all, my name is Georgi Kokiashvili and I'm from Majara Sport. Belal, first of all, I want to wish you all the best. And my question is very simple and one. You had 3 losses in your career, so my question is it's very simple, as I said. What did you learn from these fights?
You learn a lot from every fight. You learn so much after a loss. You go back, you think about it, and for me, I had the pleasure of going down to Fortis MMA and training this last one. My last opponent I lost to was Jeff Neal. I went down there, trained down there with that team and those guys on there. It was a great experience for me to be able to train with a team that built a game plan against you, and then they explained what they saw. They helped me out so much, and I feel like little stuff that they saw, now it helped me even change my game even more.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best on such day.
Appreciate it.
That's all we have for you today, Belal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we will be joined by UFC lightweight Jim Miller. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you're done.
The longer the camp, the better my conditioning gets. The pandemic really didn't affect my training schedule. I still had all my sparring partners, my coaches. We still had the use of, the limited use of a couple of our team facilities. So it's been a smooth camp. I mean, as smooth as it can be.
What's the thing that makes Volkov dangerous that he brings to the table?
He's got long legs and he knows how to use his reach and likes to keep distance. So those are the main things that we've been focusing on, and that's what I think he's the best at.
Now, this fight is obviously very important in terms of the title picture. They just announced that the heavyweight title is finally going to be back in play in August. What's it been like to just, you're doing work in the division and now finally you're a step closer to the belt getting sorted out and possibly your own title shot?
I'm just happy to know that they got it all signed out. The contracts are signed and it's going to happen.
We are now joined by UFC lightweight Jim Miller. Thank you for joining us, Jim.
Thank you.
Our first question is from Jay Anderson with Cage Side Press.
Hey, thanks very much, Jim, and welcome back. You're going to pull even again with Cowboy in this one, I believe, for the most fights in the UFC. But I want to ask, is this kind of the strangest set of circumstances you've ever fought in, with a pandemic, an empty arena looking ahead?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Haven't been to Vegas and it be this deserted. Haven't had a training camp with as small a team as I had, and yeah, it's definitely odd. I will say though, the atmosphere that we're dealing with now is still better than fighting in Fayetteville at the Fight for the Troops in my second one. That one was a little bit tough because we were like in the barracks. So we'll get it done. It's really no issue though.
What are you doing to stay busy in the hotel? Because I imagine you're pretty much quarantined right now.
You know what? It's been really nice because the room next to mine has a workout area in it. So I've been able to pretty easily get some work done, and I'm not usually the type that goes out and about anyway during fight week. Just dealing with my weight and doing what I need to do, as opposed to I'm not the type to go to the movies or the mall or anything like that.
And speaking of weight cuts, if I'm not mistaken, this is at 160-pound catch weight. How did that come about?
I was asking Sean for a fight at either 55s or 70s. He said he had Roosevelt, and that Roosevelt wasn't comfortable making 55s as quickly. Coming off that last fight. So he threw out 160s, and I was perfectly okay with that.
And last one for me. Speaking about your opponent, I mean, a young up-and-comer, nowhere near the experience that you have, but what's your take on fighting kind of a rising guy coming off a big win over Brock Weaver?
I imagine myself in his position, and I'd be super fired up on cloud nine, coming into a fight like that. So I'm expecting a dangerous guy that's he's got nothing to lose. He's got a little momentum behind him, and he's fighting a guy who's been around for a while. So he's going to be a dangerous man inside the octagon.
All right, thanks for your time, Jim, and looking forward to Saturday.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Stephen Morocco. Stephen, your line has been unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I didn't put my hand up or put my hand down. Sorry.
No problem. We'll jump to Mike Bond. Mike, your line has been unmuted.
I'm curious, you mentioned a little bit the conditions of the training camp here. Do you think that was beneficial to you? I mean, we've heard from a couple of the other fighters today saying that, the shorter camps, the lack of notice a little bit, there's upside to it because you're not overtraining, you're not overthinking the scenario you're going into. Was that kind of the benefits for you too?
I do like the shorter notice ones because there is less of that getting in your own head. And dealing with the grind that comes with, training for a fight for 8-10 weeks. But at the same time, like I have been training for the last 2 months or so, and it's been cool to kind of get back to that small group stuff and really make every session about me. Having a stable of young fighters around me, like they're always fighting and getting ready for fights, and training sessions were, I was the only guy with anything on the deck. So, it was all about just making me better and getting me in the best shape that I can and as sharp as possible. So yeah, there have been definitely some upsides to it. The downside is that I didn't have as big a team. I didn't have as big a group of guys. So you're missing out on a little bit of that. The camaraderie and the typical cool things that come with having a group of guys that are doing the same thing as you.
Yeah, and it got mentioned off the top, this record-tying 35th fight here. What's this number going to look like when it's all said and done? Is it going to be 40? Is it going to be 50? How many do you have left in you?
It'll be 40. I'm pretty confident with the way that I'm feeling that I'll get to 40. 50, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm playing it, fight by fight, and I look ahead and I see UFC 300 in like 4 years, and I'm like, I don't know if I can make it that far, but it would be pretty cool to fight on 100, 200, and 300. So, I'm not hung up on that idea. I'm not focused on that idea, but like I said, where I'm at, another 5 fights after this, if I get to fight at the pace that I want to, that's less than 2 years. So I can easily handle that.
Yeah. Do you think maybe you tweak your approach to how many fights you're taking? Like maybe, shrink it down to 1 fight a year or something like that to kind of, extend the longevity?
No, actually the opposite. If I got to fight as often as I wanted to, I'd have probably just about 40 fights now anyway. But it's for me, it's just easier to stay in it. I've been fortunate enough, knock on wood, that I haven't had to deal with anything super crazy coming out of any of these fights. And I've got plenty of injuries that I deal with, plenty of nagging stuff, but nothing's required surgery yet. So, if for me to stay in the gym and have that goal ahead, it's easier for me to just keep on chugging along. And there's so many things now with a large family and the kids growing, and running the business and all these other things that pull me away if I give the opportunity. So I'm good at focusing in on fighting when there's that fight ahead, but it becomes really difficult if there isn't. So if I could fight every 3 months, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Well, and the last one from me, where do you draw motivation for a fight like this? Obviously, you've headlined cards, you've fought guys who are world champions, top contenders, all that kind of stuff. You're fighting someone who's much lesser known and is a pretty young guy in the game in terms of how long he's been in the UFC. So what drives you and what gets you up every day to train for a fight like this?
It's a fight. I've never looked over anybody, and it's an opportunity for me to show off my skill set. It's an opportunity for me to get paid. There's plenty of things to be looking forward to about it. And my goal is to fight to my full potential. And even at 34 fights in the UFC so far, I feel like I've come close, but I haven't quite cracked the code on how to fight perfectly every time. I want to be able to just turn that switch on and be at my best. And it's hard. It's really hard to kind of stay out of your own head and not let any of the things that are out of your control creep in. It's that's the challenge. That's the thing that I'm trying to beat. It's really just beating myself and the atmosphere. It never really has anything to do with my opponent. They're just an opportunity and a particular skill set that'll hopefully match up well with mine and me show what I'm capable of. But yeah, it's kind of just it's beating everything else. It's dealing with that part and and all the other things that just pop up.
And sorry, I do have one more just based off what you said there. Where has been the closest to that perfection you got? I mean, the last 3 wins you've had have all been first round submissions, pretty quick, less than around 2 minutes each or less. So do you feel you were pretty close there with those Gonzalez and Guida wins? Obviously, the last one didn't go your way, but there's been moments where things have clicked consistently.
Yeah, I do feel like I was close with those. I mean, Guida hit me pretty hard, So, fortunately, that kind of, I was super excited for that fight. That one was just to be able to share the octagon with Clay. I've been such a fan of his for a while, and I was just really amped for that one. But yeah, so I was in a really good place, going into that fight, and he still landed that big shot that could have easily been the end of my night. But the Gonzalez, the Alex White fight, those were pretty good. And, I go all the way back to like the Fabrizio Camus fight, where, there were little things that he did. He swept me and, he hit me a couple times, but then I ended up just letting my body do what I've trained it to do for my entire life. And it did it. And, against a high level guy. And that was awesome. So yeah, I just want to get to that point where like I can just shut it off and do what I've trained to do and show off all the skills that I'm capable of. Because the fact of the matter is I've tormented some of my training partners for years with things that I've never hit in fights. And I kind of want to, for their sake, for them, I want to be able to pull those things off in the octagon.
All right. Well, hopefully it happens Saturday night. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Our last question is from Alistair Bishop with MMA Republic.
I'm good.
Fantastic. My first question is actually from my co-host. He wants to know why you shoot with a PSE.
Why do I shoot with a PSE? Yeah, you know what? My good buddy and archery coach, John Dudley. He sent me the PSE, and I if he's handing me something, I'm gonna shoot it because he's the master. So whatever he says to do when it comes to flinging arrows, I'm gonna do.
Fantastic. You're a guy that I read an article not so long ago about the 3-decade man, someone in quite a long position as an MMA fighter who seemed to be getting better with age, if you can say it like that. What would your advice be, especially to someone like me from South Africa, to young aspiring MMA fighters to have a long career and a long successful career?
Don't let the bad days dictate like what you're doing, right? Like I've trained with a lot of guys over the years that were super talented and could have made it very far in the sport, but like your day to day is it's just going to be up and down. Like some days are going to be better than others, and you're going to have those days where you're not. And I've seen a lot of guys that they let the rough days where somebody that they normally are matched up pretty head to head with, they'll get the better of them, and they just let it affect them. And it's you just got to look at every opportunity as a learning experience, and make the most of it. And like I've had plenty of days, especially dealing with the Lyme disease, that my job when I was on the mats was kind of just to survive and to get through it, and to protect myself. I needed to get the work in, and I wasn't in an optimal position to really like fight to my strengths or anything like that, or whatever it was, grappling, sparring, this or that. So it was kind of just do what I need to do, get solid reps in, and not get hurt. So like I would take those bad days, and I'd try to just get that little bit of everybody says the 1% better every day, and that's really what comes down to. Like dealing with the low spots.
Fantastic. And at this point in your career, what are the kind of fights that you're looking forward to, the ones that really get you out of bed?
Any of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I said, that Guida fight, I was just super comfortable and excited to fight him. And it wasn't, there were no nerves. It was a kind of a different feeling. I don't know, just because I'm going in there, I'm fighting Clay, who's got a ton of really great wins on his record. But again, a fight that I know that I can win. And, I was just, there was nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose. I'd go out and fight my hardest against a legend, and I want to experience that again. I want to fight some more of these guys that I've not yet shared the octagon with, but shared the trenches with over these years. And I don't care if it's at 55s, 70s. Oh, hell, I'll go to 85s. And just share the octagon with some of these guys that I've been fans of throughout my career. And but at the same time, I'll fight the up and comers. It doesn't matter. It's every fight is going to be different. Every fight is going to be, like I said, another opportunity to show off my skill set. So yeah, I like them all.
Awesome. Last one from me, Jim. Having done so much through your career, was fighting on the back end of a pandemic something you just absolutely had to do to add to the CV?
Yeah, I'm not gonna put together this career and not ask to fight, during this or on Fight Island. I got to throw my name into the hat for that, even though I'm not necessarily looking forward to flying across the world. It's one of those things that I fought on a lot of these big cards. It's like an 80s karate movie. Like I gotta go to Fight Island. So I'm looking forward to performing well on Saturday night, coming out of this healthy, and get another one hopefully by the end of the summer, and fight over there.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you today, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Great job.
the longer the camp, the better my conditioning gets. The pandemic really didn't affect my training schedule. I still had all my sparring.
Get your opinion on the outlook of the heavyweight division. Your only losses come to Francis Ngannou. Where do you see yourself here with the win? I mean, I think Francis is knocking on that number one contender status. Once the title picture is done, where do you see yourself fitting into that picture?
I guess it depends on what happens with Stipe. If he decides to retire, then it'll be a vacant belt, and most likely Ngannou versus me for that vacant belt. If he decides to not retire, then it'll be Ngannou versus Stipe. I'll just wait my turn.
And how do you see? It would seem, in my opinion, the picture looks like that we might see yourself versus Francis a third time. How do you see that playing out, and what difference would there be?
I see myself winning. I see myself taking him down like I did in our first fight, and this time landing heavy ground and pound.
So do you think the key to beating Francis would be implementing your wrestling?
Next, we will be joined by number 10
I use my wrestling
UFC
on everyone.
Women's Bantamweight Marion Reneau.
And what
Please
do you
use the
say
hand
to,
icon if you wish to ask
critics
any
of that
questions,
sort of,
and don't forget to
lay and
take down
pray
your
style?
hand
I mean,
once
your
you're done.
wrestling style is way more exciting. No, I'm not saying yours. I'm just saying guys hit out. They'll say lay and pray sort of style. Yours is high impact wrestling and very effective. And one of the more exciting things about your style is that we know what to expect, and you still are able to implement that game plan. But what do you say to critics that criticize a heavy wrestling sort of approach?
And if you don't like it, you don't gotta watch.
Fantastic. That's all from me. Best of luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask you a few first.
Sure.
So one of the biggest aspects of your game that we've seen in all of your fights is dominance. You know, what's something about your fighting style that just people break under your pressure and everything that you do?
Because nobody likes to wrestle. It's hard to build up the muscle memory that it takes to defend the type of pressure I'm bringing. It's grueling, it's grinding, and guys don't want to do it. Guys want to just have space and huck haymakers at each other because it takes a lot less energy. When a guy is hanging on you and making your arms tired, making your back tired, making your neck tired, they get tired and they don't want to be there no more.
Is there a point in your fights typically where you feel your opponent kind of break under that type of pressure? Yeah, it usually happens in the second round. I don't really have I don't think I've ever gotten anyone out in the first round because that's not my game. My game's based off attrition. It will wear you out. And they usually break somewhere in that second round. Like my fight with Alistair, I laid on him the first round. I laid on him the second round. And then the third round, when I felt that his arms weren't very strong anymore, I was able to get my elbows loose and land a couple of those. Have you seen anything in Volkov's past fights that indicate, hey, maybe that is an opportunity for me in this fight that I can take advantage of? He does have that ability to break. I think everyone has that ability to break because there's no one else in this division that has my wrestling pedigree. They're not built for this. I'm built to grind out guys for 15 to 25 minutes. My last question is, plenty's obviously made about your wrestling and your dominance in that. And we've seen your striking evolve too. That's something that I want to point out. And how have you been able to build that? And how do you think it's going to assist you in this matchup with Volkov? My striking is organically growing off my wrestling. My striking coach, I've been blessed to meet him, Vinny Lopez, and he was able to adapt and give me combos and footwork that blended into my striking, like my high-lows. That's based off wrestling. The high-low doesn't work if you can't wrestle. Guys won't respect it. That's how I got Junior. Like if you don't respect the wrestling, then I'll come back up top with the overhand.
Up next, we'll go to Georgi Kokashvili from Ajara Sport. Your line has been unmuted.
Oh, thank you so much, Curtis. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Thank you. I feel good. Curtis, are you looking to fight at the stand, or are you considering to fight at grappling? Because we have seen you have done great against Junior Dos Santos, 2 rounds, 2 KO, and do you think it will be hard to done it again against Volkov?
I mean, that's up to him. Had you asked me before the Junior Dos Santos, I would have told you I was going to take him down and ragdoll him. Obviously, that didn't happen, but it opened up other opportunities to strike. So I'm adaptable. Like if he wants to commit his whole defense to stopping my wrestling, I'll strike. If he doesn't want to commit his whole defense to stopping my wrestling, that's the only way you can stop it. You have to commit everything to it. If you don't do that, then I will take you down. So it's pretty much pick your poison.
Thank you. And my last question is about Francis Ngannou. Are you looking to fight again against him because you lost the fight against Francis Ngannou, and this fight looks like for me like a semi-final for you to reach the title shot? And do you consider it as if Cormier and Miocic have done, and you are next?
Do you want this off? Take it off. Okay.
We are now joined by number 10 ranked UFC women's bantamweight Marion Reneau. Marion, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Our first question comes from Mike Bond with USA Today Sports.
Marion, how are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. So Saturday, not only a big day for fight day, but it's also your birthday. How exciting is that?
It's exciting. I mean, and everybody loves to celebrate their birthday. So obviously I'm going to have a great celebration, hopefully after the fight.
Yeah, there's not a much better gift to give yourself than a win, right?
That's all we've been saying.
For sure. So what do you think of this fight? I mean, obviously Raquel has been in there, her past 5 have pretty much only been against champions, former champions, or, the top contenders. So what can a win over her do for your career?
I think this is a great fight and it's a great matchup. If you look at both Raquel and I, we both match up fairly well, both in the standing and, I'd say on the ground as well. So I think it's going to be an exciting fight. It was one that was bound to happen. It was something that we anticipated happening. But it happened a lot sooner than we thought, because I was supposed to fight Vieira before. So this one happened a little bit sooner, no problem.
Okay, cool. So, and obviously the past 2, haven't gone your way. Are you feeling any extra level of pressure coming into this fight because of that?
No, learning as a heptathlete when I was in college, I had 7 different events that I had to do. If I had an event that was bad, I had to learn to get over that event. I had to learn to get over that event fairly quickly. And that's something that my coaches back then worked on with me. So it's something that I've brought to the game of MMA. Basically, sure, I didn't like the decisions from my last fight and the fight before I lost, but I don't put pressure on myself. I have to move forward. So it's not something that I focus on. I've learned that at an early age, and it's followed me to now.
Awesome. And just last thing, just tell me what life has kind of been like for you through the pandemic and everything. Obviously, you're a teacher as well. I assume there's no school going on or anything. So just how has everything impacted you on that front?
It was crazy how everything happened, and it was all of a sudden at once, and then everybody was afraid and scared, and it was really not a great year for our students the way we ended. So I feel kind of bad for them. I feel for our seniors, my son being a senior himself. I feel bad that they did not have the graduation that everybody else has had, or had the farewell that they needed to have as seniors. As a business owner, we had to shut down for a couple of months. I feel bad for businesses who had to close permanently. It's been a crappy situation for a lot of people. And so we've had to dig deep and pretty much endure a lot, but we feel fairly well and blessed. We came out on top. Everything worked out the way it needed to work out. And so we're just moving forward from it.
So how crucial just into the overall life element is this opportunity on Saturday? Obviously, you know, a paycheck coming potentially too with the wins. How big will that be for you?
Any win is going to be a big win. So I'm not looking at it as like I need it financially, but I always go into every fight with the mentality that I'm starving for that paycheck. So it'll be 100% useful.
Awesome. Thank you, Marion, and happy birthday.
Thanks.
Our next question is from Gabriel Gonzalez with Cage Side Press.
Marion, I wanted to expand a little more on what Mike Bond was asking. As a teacher, you know, this has just been an unprecedented time, right? I mean, I guess, what has been your message to your students? Because obviously it's different for everybody. So how do you kind of just keep doing, I guess, your part as the instructor?
I predominantly have freshman females. That's it. I only do freshman females. I guess I'm lucky that way. And basically, I just keep telling them to move forward. This is not the end. This is just a part of history that they get to live through. They didn't get to live through the 9/11 history, which I love to talk to them about. But I talk to them about this history as well. And they're going to make it through this history. It's going to be a lot of changes, but just to keep moving forward. And I urge them, obviously, to reach out if they ever need anything. And I do get a lot of them who reach out. And it's great that they can trust me in that aspect. But it's just something that you just have to keep on them. You can't let them think that they're doing this alone, that their families are doing it alone. There's always somebody out there to help them out.
With the pandemic, obviously, I'm assuming a lot of it is building the lesson plan, sending it to them virtually and everything else. Did you find time to pick up any other hobbies while at home? Did you binge the Tiger King like other people? What was your thing?
No. We did watch Tiger King, but I can't believe I sat through the whole thing. I felt brain cells were dying as I was watching it, so I don't really like it. And I picked up gardening. I finished every project that I ever had in my house. I pretty much finished all those projects. And I just picked up some gardening and started playing with my dog, started training my new little pup. I have a new little Vizsla pup who's very rambunctious.
He touched on it a little bit, just, you know, the fact that you are on a 2-fight skid. When you go back to camp, I guess, how do you cut out a lot of that? You know, like, obviously it could be a little stress, but how do you cut it out to get the focus and be like, hey, this is a brand new fight, brand new challenge. I need to approach it this way.
Just like what you said, it's not something that I dwell on. I don't look in the past. I can't look in the rearview mirror if I want to move forward. So I just keep my eye on the prize and just keep moving forward. I can't control what happened in the past. So there's literally no point in dwelling on it.
Gotcha. Final one from me. What are you most proud of that you've developed in your game over the last few months, or is that a secret?
Oh, I'm most proud of my wrestling that I've developed in the last few months. Actually, it's been something that we've been working on in the past few years. It's just finally starting to come together.
Thank you, Marion.
Our next question is from Damon Martin with MMA Fighting.
Hey, Marion. I'll say happy birthday ahead of time as well. How has training during the quarantine been for you? Because I spoke to Aspen Ladd about a week ago, and she said that, you know, just due to timing and everything, she didn't get a chance to work with you as much. Obviously, she's fighting Sarah McMahon, a common opponent. How is it for you? Like, your training changes, not working with some of the same people, things like that.
In all honesty, I've been fortunate enough to have training partners who still came in, and I'm lucky enough to have my own gym, so I could train at any time that I wanted to train. Now, as far as my coaches, you know, I had one coach who went under quarantine, which was understandable, but I was able to use somebody else in the meantime. So it's not like I missed a step. I feel like I was more focused on my camp more than ever before because I didn't have outside work, job, etc. It's something that I typically don't experience as a fighter, only because I do work. I do have a full-time job, and I am a business owner. So this was something that it was just more keyed into my training.
You mentioned somebody got quarantined. Did somebody close to you did they have COVID? Did that happen?
No, but he felt more comfortable because he had small kids at home and his parents. So one of my coaches, he just quarantined himself just to be on the safe side, which was understandable. And it was only for about a couple of weeks, and then we were back at it.
Gotcha. Obviously, you were going to fight Ketlin Vieira in May, of course, with the travel, the restrictions, things like that, the opponent changed. But you go from a predominant grappler in Ketlin Vieira to more of a brawler in Raquel Pennington, somebody who does like to stand up and kind of trade. I mean, obviously, you fought every kind of fighter. Did you mind that stylistic change? Did you welcome that stylistic change?
No, I didn't mind it at all. In fact, like I said, it was something we anticipated in the future, having to fight Raquel. So it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm surprised that I'm fighting her. No, I'm happy she took this fight because I know there wasn't a lot of options right now, especially during quarantine.
And last thing for me, we talked to Raquel earlier. Obviously, this division, the bantamweight division, Amanda Nunes is sitting on top as champion, but I'm sure you saw her comments recently where she said she was contemplating retirement. Kind of a two-part question. Like, what did you make of that when you hear about the dominant champion in your division thinking about walking away? And do you believe Amanda Nunes is actually going to walk away?
She's done a lot in MMA, and I think in a short period of time, and she's capitalized on it. She's ready to start a family. If she wants to retire, nobody's going to hold it against her. Hopefully not. She's done a lot. She set herself up. So if she does retire, she retires on top. That's a great thing to do. She retires with her baby and her family. I think that's amazing. There's nothing like having a child. She's going to have the best time of her life forever.
Thank you, Marion.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we have for you today, Marion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Up next, we will be joined by UFC lightweight Roosevelt Roberts. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you're done.
I mean, I do believe Ngannou is next, and then I'm right behind him. So I knew we would fight again after I lost the last one. Like I was only 27 years old then. I'm 29 now. I'm gonna be here.
This one. I'm a
We
head
are now joined.
Look nappy, crazy.
We're now joined by UFC lightweight Roosevelt Roberts. Roosevelt, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Our first question is from Jay Anderson with Cage Side Press.
Hey, thanks very much, and welcome back, Roosevelt. It's a pretty quick turnaround here. Is that something that the UFC presented to you, or is that something that you actually sought out?
That's something that they presented to me. I wanted actually to wait till like July, August. I wanted to go see my kids in Miami. I wanted to just take a little time, go see my kids and relax. But then they called me with this good opportunity. I felt like I couldn't pass it up, so I jumped on it.
And I know originally you wanted Matt Frivola, and the name they gave you is a fair bit bigger, Jim Miller. How surprised were you hearing Jim Miller's name?
I was kind of surprised, I didn't think that. I thought I was gonna get like Frivola. Well, I thought they was gonna wait till Frivola fight and then give me the Frivola fight. But yeah, when they sent me his name, it was a big opportunity. I was excited, so we jumped on it and made it. We're gonna make it happen.
And we did speak to Jim earlier, and he mentioned that you had some concern about making 155 on that short notice. How are things feeling coming into this, knowing that you can at least get to 160?
Oh man, I feel good, man. I mean, I just didn't want to have to cut again so quick. 155 for me. I'm skinny. I'm tall and skinny. I don't really have that much muscle. So it's kind of hard for me to get down to 155. So I didn't want to just have to come cut weight again in 2 weeks after I just got done cutting weight. So we asked for 160, he took it, and I'm grateful for that.
Is Miller someone that you were watching when you were coming up in the sport? Because he's been around just forever.
Yeah. I've been watching Jim Miller. He's an amazing fighter, man. I got a number of respect for him. He's a veteran. This is like his 34th, 32nd walk to Octagon, something like that. So yeah, I got a number of respect for him. And that's gonna make me do even better when I get in there.
It's actually going to be his 35th. He's going to tie Cowboy this weekend for the lead again. Is it at all intimidating going up against a guy who's got that much more experience than you?
Nah, he's human. He bleeds just like I bleed. He'll go to sleep just like I go to sleep, get knocked out just like I get knocked out. I don't care how many times he's been in there. I've been fighting my whole life. I haven't been fighting MMA my whole life, but I've been fighting my whole life. So it don't matter. He's just human.
And last one for me, do you think it's an advantage at all having already fought in the empty arena in the smaller cage at the Apex?
I guess with different fighters, I think it will vary. I think some people like to fight with a crowd. I think some people don't. I think some people don't really care. Me, I don't really care if it's a crowd or not. I kind of like it with no crowd. But I think however he comes in, I hope he brings his best.
All right. Well, thanks very much, and best of luck this Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
So man, you're back just 2 weeks after you just did this whole thing. Be right back in. Do you think it's an advantage to just you understand the quarantine process? You understand being in the hotel, what the fight week looked like versus maybe someone who hasn't been through it yet?
Yeah, I think it is. I just think that it's really just an advantage of people don't know what to expect, and I think I know what to expect. So when I come, I don't have to really really worry about anything, because I already know what I have to do, the tests I have to take, and what to look forward to.
Right after your Brock Weaver fight, you said, I want people to know I'm the guy that's going to show up and fight. I'm not going to necessarily talk. I want you guys to show up and fight and put on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you're becoming that prize fighter, that exciting fighter that people in this time period want to watch?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people like when they talk, but I think people really like when people show up and fight. Like I said, every time I show up and I fight and I do my job. And that's my goal every time I step in there, to make sure I bring the best out.
Now it's a 2-week turnaround, so it's not like you can go hit the drawing board and collect too much more new information. But when you got a new opponent and the time to game plan, is it difficult to come up with something that quick with your coaches?
No, not really. I mean, we do our game plan is going there and just be us. Whatever happens. We just make sure that we're ready everywhere in the fight. Either striking, grappling, wrestling. We just gotta make sure that we're ready. It took we only had 2 weeks to study him. But it's not really I don't really do that. My coaches do that. So I'm just gonna be ready for wherever the fight goes.
Now, it is his 35th appearance. Have you watched him fight before? Are you potentially a fan of his at some point when you were coming up in the game?
Oh yeah, I watched a few of his. Matter of fact, I watched a lot of his fights. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of his. You know what I'm trying to say? But once I'm in that cage, and there's no more fan side. You know what I'm saying? Now it's me against him, and we're gonna make it happen. He's gonna bring out the best in me. I just gotta go out there, perform, show up. And I hope he do too.
My last question is: you said this was an opportunity you couldn't pass up.
Yeah.
Why is it specifically the Jim Miller name like this, the one you couldn't pass up?
Well, it's just because he been for a while, had a lot of experience. He fought a lot of top names. So I think me taking this fight on short notice like this, I think it's a good opportunity. I think it shows that I'm really what I'm here for and what I'm about. It shows I'm not here just to play around or just to have a cakewalk and fight like nobody. I'm here to fight the best of the best and actually become the best one day.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
You got any more?
Our next question is from Steven Morocco. Steven, you have been unmuted.
Hey, Roosevelt. Is there an expiration date on you fighting at lightweight? Do you think you'll eventually have to move up to welterweight, or is this just a symptom of a short notice fight?
No, I just think it's symptom of a short notice fight. But I definitely will fight at welterweight too. I fight at welterweight and 155. I mean, welterweight, I walk around naturally. If I'm eating a lot, like 180, like 175, 180. So yeah, I fight at 170. I only got to lose 5 pounds to do that. I'll be perfectly fine. As of right now, I see myself as a lightweight. Even though the weight cuts do be hard on my body, I make it easy. I'll always be on weight the day of the fight. If not, the day of weigh-ins. If not, I'd be like 1 pound over. So yeah, I mean, lightweight is my division, and if I go up to 170, it definitely will be later in my career.
If there was a 165-pound division, would you be a volunteer?
Yeah, I'd be a volunteer. I mean, I feel good fighting at 160. I mean, yesterday I was just 163, so I mean, I feel amazing, man. I don't need so they did 165, man. I'll do that too. I mean, I fight 170, 165, 155. You know, whichever one's gonna be best to propel my career. You know, just help me make more money.
Is Jim Miller the gateway to bigger matchups and more money?
I think in a way, in a sense, yeah. I think me beating him will be very, very good on my resume. You know, I think the matchmakers will see that and they see that I'm ready for like bigger people. But like I said, man, I'm 26 years old. You know, I got a long career ahead of me. I'm planning to do this for like another 10, 12 years, however many years I could do it, however many years my body could do it. So if I got to take it slow and work up, then I'll take it slow and work up. But you know, I'm ready for anybody and everybody.
And do you remember the first time you actually saw Jim Miller fight? How old you were?
The first time I first watched him fight, no, I don't really remember because before I started doing MMA, I never really watched the UFC like that. Well, I did, and I seen like WEC and stuff, but I never really like was into it. But like, I remember seeing him fight like when he fought Cowboy and stuff like that. And like his first couple fights with Oliveira, I remember watching them fights. But that's pretty much it for me.
Did you like him? Did you like to watch him as a fighter?
Yeah, I mean he's a good dude, man. He comes to fight, you know. He's good on the ground, good on the feet, you know. I think this stylistically, me and him gonna put on a fight of the night performance. Both of us walk away with 50K, you know. You know, so yeah, I think he's definitely gonna bring out the best of me, you know.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
That's all we have for you today, Roosevelt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we will be joined by Bobby Green. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you're done.
For a long time, so this was inevitable, and I don't view Ngannou the way everyone else does, I guess, because I've already been in there with him twice, and I'm alive still. Like everyone else thinks he's Godzilla, and he'll just destroy you. I don't view him that way. I view him as a man. He has pros in his game, and he has cons in his game. One of his biggest cons is lack of conditioning and lack of grappling ability. So those are the things I'll target when we do fight again.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best.
They're gonna actually see me?
No, they're going to see you. You're going to look into here.
Up next, we have Carlton Crandall from MMA Power Hour.
Even though I look pretty shitty right now.
We are now joined by UFC lightweight Bobby Green. Thank you for joining us, Bobby.
Hello, miss. Can she hear me? Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do this.
Our first question is from Gabriel Gonzalez with Gateside Press.
How you doing, Bobby? Can you just describe the mood for this week? Another UFC fight, another veteran, but it's under some very interesting conditions. Can you just talk about the experience for you?
It's been great, to be honest. Like, I think this is really like a new wave of doing it, you know? I think the care has been awesome. You know, I know we got to wear a mask all the time and all the blah, 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 but I think it's awesome, you know? The way the fights are going and the way the schedule is. We're going in, get it done, send me home. I like it.
Gotcha. Talk to me about Clay Guida. He's a guy who's been around forever. He's reinvented himself. What does he bring to the table at this stage of his career against you?
Clay. I don't know what to say too much about the guy, to be honest with you. I can just say what I'm gonna do. Clay's gonna try to hold me and wrestle me. And I'm gonna try to make it an exciting fight as much as possible. My thing is making exciting fights, something that's memorable. It's an art to me. Mixed martial arts. So I'll try to make a picture or a video or something that's pleasable to the audience. He's gonna hug me, try to grab on my hips, and do blah blah blah. I'm gonna punch his face up, and then two, wrestling wise, like I don't know why these guys don't know that I can't. They think I can't wrestle. I just choose not to wrestle. I don't like to get cocky or anything, but like California is the best state for wrestling. I was 1 point away from the state finals, and the two guys that were in the state finals, I beat one of them, and the other one beat me by 1 point. So. I don't know why I don't think I can wrestle. I just choose not to. It's not the most entertaining part of MMA. Everybody wants to see knockouts and strikes, so that's what I give them.
So you wouldn't be tempted to just try to out-wrestle him just to prove a point? You'd want to put him down with the hands?
To be honest, I'm a carefree guy. I just believe in God, and I don't ever want to take away from Jesus' plan, It's his plan. It's not mine. Whatever he has in plan for me, if he planned it to be this way or that way, that's the way he planned it. I just need to be ready for whatever comes my way. So I could try to go out there and wrestle and show I have great wrestling. I just got to let it all flow. You got to be able to have your reads and read these people and see what's available, what's happening in the fight.
Final question for me. How was training camp for you with the quarantine and everything? Were you able to get time with your coaches, or was it a lot of independent work?
Everything was great, great as we can do, I wish I had more time to do what I needed to do, but I have no complaints. I'm thankful for every opportunity I get. I know I've mentioned in the past something about retirements and stuff like that, but I'm a very emotional person. And so sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me, and I say things that are just, I look like an ass when I say a lot of things I say. So don't take it wrong. I'm revamped. I'm ready. You're going to see a new me and a better me.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Mike Vaughn with USA Today Sports.
Bobby, just curious, is this personal, this fight with Clay? Obviously, you were supposed to fight UFC 225. Didn't happen. He ended up, he called you a coward. He ended up losing. You said he got punked worse than CM Punk.
Holy crap, you remember everything. Wow, I like this guy.
So is the personal, is there any of those feelings still left lingering going into this?
That's a great question, bro. Yes and no. Because at the end of the day, it's just business. It's just business in the aspect that I'm going to beat you no matter what. So I'm not worried about who said what. Because at the end of the day, you got to come in there and see me, and you got to pay for what you said. And I keep telling myself not to get too emotional and be, hey, what was you saying? And you were saying, and now you take one of these and take one of these, Nate is like a cousin to me. I used to live on Nate's couch. He let me sleep on his couch free for like 2 weeks, while I trained with him and stuff. And Nate and him got into it. So to me, it's kind of like, I give my one up for my dog, really. So in that way, it's personal.
And Nate Diaz, for people who may not know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nate Diaz.
Awesome. And you mentioned, you're going to look different. You're remotivated, reinvented. So what does that actually look like in terms of your fighting ability in there?
People always tell me I let these fights be close, I'm like, how do I explain it? Like, I'm a quarterback, and I'm making these calls and making these decisions, and there's a lot of risk, in fighting. So sometimes I've tended not to take those risks because you could blow the whole opportunity. And I played safe here, and I played safe here thinking all the judges will see and the judges will know. They don't know and they don't see. So maybe I have to take more risks to show my true me, So this fight, you're going to see a lot more flashy stuff. You're going to see a lot more. It's going to be on. It's going to be on.
And last thing for me, obviously, this fight is consuming your focus. It's important. But do you want to, after this, are you hoping to be more active, later this year, going into next year? Because it's obviously only being 1-2 fights per year.
That's been an issue with me. That's been an issue with me is when you come in for a loss, you kind of got to go sit down for a second in a way. And every of these fights, I didn't feel like I was losing them. If you can go back and watch, or you can go back and look at the statistics, I'm doubling all these guys' numbers. doubled in all your numbers. I don't know how I'll lose these fights, but hey, it is what it is. But I hit my manager up. Hey, I want to get right back active. So after I beat Clay, I'm fighting in August. Whoever wants to step up, let's go.
Awesome, Bobby. Thanks, man.
That's all we have for you today, Bobby. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. I like it. Get it in, get it done.
Best of luck, man.
Hey, Curtis, how are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. So this is a rare, taller opponent for you at 6'7". Does that present any interesting problems for you? Have you had anybody that tall that you've been able to train with, or do you have anyone like that now?
Yeah, I've worked with taller guys. It doesn't make a difference. When you're on your back, we're all the same height.
Okay. Obviously, he's a striker, and he's a pretty decorated striker, maybe not the most in the division, but one of the more decorated strikers. How much can he do to adjust his game, to you? Everyone knows that one of the goals you'll have is to take him down. Can he make a great deal of improvement, and does he have any chance of continuing to shut down your takedowns?
You don't get my wrestling in a few months. That's why it's so good. I've been doing this for a long time, since 2005. You don't get my wrestling in a few months, so I don't think there's anything he can do about that. If I'm him, I'm looking to come out hard and fast and get me out of there early, because the longer it goes, the worse it gets for him.
Gotcha. Now, at 29 years old, you're one of the younger fighters in the heavyweight division. That puts you in a good position. How do you feel physically? Do you feel you're at your best yet? You're at your prime or at your peak, or not even quite there yet?
No, I know I haven't peaked out yet. This isn't my final evolution. There's a lot that I haven't added yet into my training. I look forward to growing. I know I've got at least 8 or 9 more years, and there's going to be a lot of growth over these next couple of years.
Absolutely. Last question for me. Neither of you guys are known for being high-level jiu-jitsu guys, but if you get into some interesting scrambles in the ground, if he's able to move around and start trying to throw up some triangles or arm bars, how do you feel your jiu-jitsu compares with his?
I think I'm the better grappler overall. Like, my jiu-jitsu isn't offensive based. I go to jiu-jitsu practice to learn how to pass and to learn how to get into positions to land heavy ground and pound. I'm not ever going to look for a submission unless you're just like the worst grappler in the world. I'd rather get in half guard and hang out in half guard and just elbow you. I don't need to go for a Kimura or Darce. I don't need that stuff.
Do you feel comfortable with your submission defense?
Yes, very, very comfortable, especially since Alice has been at Team Elevation the last year and a half.
Definitely some good training I hear you're getting with Alistair. Well, I appreciate your time a lot. Wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you.
And our last question will come from Heidi Fang from Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Hi, Curtis. Thank you for the time. I first wanted to ask about some records here that you could possibly eclipse come Saturday night, one of them being Randy Couture's time in the cage as a heavyweight. You would need 8 minutes, 17 seconds, as far as I've read, to be able to surpass the amount of time that he fought in the cage. I want to know what that means to you, and just how different records, like what you set with your wrestling in the heavyweight division with 45 takedowns, and you had already surpassed Cain Velasquez, what these records mean to you as you go on your journey.
It just mean it validates the argument that I am the best grappler. I know there are other good grapplers, good wrestlers, good jiu-jitsu players, but I'm the best at it. I'm going to break a lot more records.
Also, I know that you hail from Chicago as well as Denver. Your father is a police officer. Your brother is a police officer. You have come out to speak about systemic racism and Black Lives Matter and the protests. I wanted to get from you your take on everything that's happening, especially being that you do have family who are police officers out there in Chicago right now.
Well, obviously, I'm pro Black Lives Matter. I do feel like there is systemic racism, especially with all the police brutality that has been targeted towards the black community. But I've been very happy to see all the protests and see that the majority of the crowds, it seems like it's like 65% young white Americans, and that means that their eyes have been open, their ears are open, they hear our cries, they know about the plight of the black community, and they're willing to help. They're willing to risk their own freedoms and to risk being injured and whatnot, and maybe getting arrested. And that just restores my faith in humanity. Like, it lets me know that there is hope, and I know that this movement won't get off the ground without the white community helping out. Like, we need to be together, and that's just been one of the most inspiring things about these protests as of late. Just a huge support coming out of the white community.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Up next, we will be joined by UFC welterweight Lyman Good. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you're done.
With the mask on? All the time?
We are now joined by UFC welterweight Lyman Good. Lyman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our first question is from Damon Martin with MMA Fighting.
Hey, Lyman, thanks for doing this today. Obviously, you've had kind of a crazy couple months, being scheduled to fight in May and then obviously being, diagnosed with COVID-19. What has this past couple of months been like for you, and what's it feel like to, finally be here in a fight week again?
It's definitely been a long road. The other thing that also happened, a few weeks ago, my father had passed away. So it's been a roller coaster ride, emotionally, physically, on all levels. But for me, one of the things we're trained in as martial artists is to learn how to maintain the integrity of your focus. Just, stay the path no matter what happens, and stay the course, because at the end of it, you're gonna feel a lot better about yourself knowing that you stuck to your path, you trained hard, and then you kept at it, so I'm definitely looking forward to this fight. I'm excited to go out there and make everybody proud.
Obviously very sorry to hear about your father as well. I know that's a devastating thing to go through. Was it, staying focused for a fight camp, how hard was that? Was there ever a moment where you said, I'm not going to do it, or was it always a focus of, you wanted to get out there and fight?
It's hard to answer that. I think, there was a lot going through my head at the time, and I felt like for me to not fight would be an injustice, to his honor and to his name. And I felt like, if anything, try to use this as an opportunity to go out there. It's literally a day before Father's Day. And, Sorry. I said to myself, let's go out there and let's shit. Let's go out there and let's do this for him.
Absolutely, absolutely. With the fight itself, you know, obviously you were going to fight Belal Muhammad before. You ended up getting Belal Muhammad again. At the end of the day, I imagine it's just a fight. But were you happy that you did get to keep the same opponent? I'm sure you spent a lot of time preparing for him before.
Yeah, it was. You know, I like to finish what I started, and I'm sure on his end he was excited about taking the fight as well. We both were. This is a fight that's been you know, expected to happen a while ago. So this definitely feels like something we rerouted, and we went through a lot. You know, from the original time we were supposed to fight. And things happen for a reason. You know, God put us in this path for a reason. I know I was meant to fight him, you know, June 20th. So I'm looking forward to it. Definitely excited I got that fight back.
Yeah. And last question, we've heard, you know, I've talked to a few people who have gone through, you know, COVID-19. It doesn't hit everybody the same way. Some people are asymptomatic. They don't even know they have it, obviously. But it is a disease in the lungs, and you obviously affects your breathing. How was it for you coming back from that and getting back into a camp? Like, did you have any after effects of that? Did you feel pretty healthy? Because again, we hear different things from different people.
Yeah, and you're right. There's so much information out there, and it's misleading. It's confusing. It's there's a lot of fear, you know, that's being put behind that information as well. As far as me, I can only speak from my own experience. I caught it at the time that I was in camp. So I think because of that, because of the shape that I was in, my conditioning, my health, my lungs, and just overall, just how in great shape I was at the time, it did in a way help to overcome it and not have the same effects of it as, you know, the average person. So for me, I think it was just more physical. It was in my body. I felt it. I did feel it in my lungs. I felt it in my energy. So I was very fatigued and just felt a lot of achiness and stuff. I went through a lot of symptoms, you know, pretty much what you're hearing out there. But I think it was a blessing for me to, at that time, had been training for a fight, because I think the health from that camp got me through the COVID virus a little easier than most people.
Thanks, Lyman. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Next question is from Jay Anderson with Cage Side Press.
Thanks very much, and condolences. I do can't imagine what you're going through at this point. I'll just make a couple of quick ones here. First of all, you were the first UFC fighter to reveal the positive test for the coronavirus. Did you worry at all that it might make it difficult to find an opponent, you know, willing to fight you when you came back, given how much conflicting information is out there?
I was banking on the fact that as a fighter, through and through, that we would fight no matter what. You know, there's already proof that a lot of us have been taking on, you know, the fights in the past few weeks, which means that we're willing to take the risks. But there's many risks that we as fighters already take anyway, so this is no different for us. I wasn't really worried. If anything, I felt it was probably good for me to go out public with it and use my platform to voice, you know, my experience with it, because there's so much unknown about the virus that I feel like me having it and then, you know, using my voice to kind of speak about it on my behalf and what it feels like to be on the other side of it would kind of help shed a little bit of light more onto this this virus and a lot about the unknowns of it as well.
And, you know, there's going to be a lot of talk about the coronavirus because you had it, and you don't want to let it overshadow the fight. So focusing on that, I mean, Belal Muhammad, as an opponent, what do you need to watch out for from him?
I'm a forward fighter. He's someone who's, you know, he's high energy. I'm high energy as well. And, you know, this is a fight that I'm also very excited for because it is definitely up there with possibly fight of the night. We're definitely looking for it to be explosive. You know I am. I'm coming out there with my power, my strength, my aggressiveness, and my forward pressure. But I also know he has kind of a similar style as well. He's, you know, well versed and he likes to mix it all up. So I think this is grounds for one of the best fights for this night. So I'm very excited for that.
And last one for me, we spoke to him earlier, and he's known for a bit of a sense of humor. He said, not a lot of fighters have good senses of humor. What's your take? Do you think fighters, can kind of laugh at themselves, have some fun?
Of course, man. I mean, at the end of the day, listen, our careers are short. We got to have fun with what we're doing. And, I applaud him for that because I don't have a sense of humor. I wish I did. I'm not the funniest guy. But, yeah, man, we got to kind of just embrace the moment, live more in the moment and just not take it so serious, and also understand, like, listen, we're living our best lives right now. We live the life of a fighter, and it's an amazing life that we live. So sometimes we just got to embrace that and just be funny. Just, enjoy it. Enjoy the moment.
All right. Well, thanks very much for your time, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Our last question is from Mike Bond with USA Today Sports.
Hey, Lyman. I do apologize for circling back to this, but I think it's important to clarify just because I don't want anyone to make any assumptions or anything in regards to your father. Was his passing in any way coronavirus related or no?
He was a sick person already with he drank and smoked his whole life. So he had a lot going on with him. They did rule it as a natural cause. But he just wasn't a healthy person. He lived a life after military. He lived a life of a lot of alcohol, a lot of smoking. So it was one of those things where it was just the inevitable. He just wasn't a healthy person to begin with.
Okay, thanks, Lyman. I appreciate you clarifying, and stay strong, brother. Best of luck.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you today, Lyman. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, guys.
Danny Castillo, Chris Holdsworth, my strength coach, Darren Draven, and really just working on myself, doing individualized things. And I feel like I grew a lot from the quarantine and during this time, and I feel a lot better than I typically do as well. So if I can go in there and perform the way I believe I'm going to Saturday night, this could be a new norm. My biggest thing was, when this all started back in mid-March, I was like, I'm going to come out better than I went into the quarantine, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't make any excuses to, not fight. I worked my ass off, and it's going to show Saturday night.
What do you think of the UFC Apex? You've both got the lack of a crowd there, and you've also got the smaller cage, which a lot of people have been talking about. How do you think that comes into play in this fight?
Yeah, I think it benefits me. It's going to be a little odd. I've got to go on the Ultimate Fighter and help coach a season when Faber and McGregor were the coaches. So I know exactly what it's like on the outside. But being a competitor and actually being in the fight, it's a fight. I'm going to be focused. I'm super coachable. I hear my coaches. I hear my opponents' coaches all the time. I can even hear some of my high school and college coaches that still come to my fights. I can hear them in the crowd. Just, so it's not going to affect me at all. In the small cage, West Coast Fighting Championship, where I came from on the regional scene, I was their lightweight champion. That is a small cage. It was like a 20-foot cage or something like that. So it's like you take a step or two, you're in the center. It's like fighting in a phone booth. It forces you to fight. And I had some amazing, exciting fights there. And we also train in a 20-foot cage at, Team Alpha Male headquarters. So it's like during this whole thing, we've had our small group that we've been drilling in there. We've been sparring in there. We have just our coaches. So I think we have the advantage going into this fight just because, I'm a cerebral fighter too. I've been visualizing all this. That's one thing that it's not going to affect me at all. As soon as the bell rings, I'll be ready to rock.
And last one for me, you've said going into this that you need more, or that you deserve more attention. What is the key to getting it? Is it just going in and getting the finish, or do you need to go, above and beyond, show more of your personality, do, the talking route that we see some guys do?
No, it's just, this is a fight game. Like, I understand all the, trash talk and stuff, but that's not me. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to look to finish the fight. I'm exciting every time I fight, whatever I'm doing, So I feel like, a big win Saturday night and I make another statement, I feel like, then I'll get that push I deserve. I want someone in front of me this time instead of trying to be the gatekeeper and fighting all these prospects and all these vets and all these guys that are behind me. I want someone towards the top, but that means absolutely nothing. I just have to obviously beat a tough opponent that's standing in front of me on Saturday night, and I get my hand raised, and we'll sit back and kind of see what happens and then go from there. But no, I'm not going to create some character. I didn't go to acting school or anything like that. I'm here to fight, and that's what I do.
Fair enough. Well, looking forward to Saturday. Best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our next question comes from Mike Bond from USA Today Sports. Mike, your line has been unmuted.
Josh, I just want to clarify something you said a little bit earlier there about potentially going into the pandemic, like finishing your contract and stuff. Is this the last fight on your current contract?
No, I actually, with the Burgos fight, we were able to ink a new 4-fight deal, so that I'm happy with, and so I have a new set of contract.
Very nice. So was that something that you were kind of mulling over? Was there any consideration of fighting it out and maybe seeing what you were kind of worth on the open market?
That's what I was going to do in January. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, I want to fight for the UFC. It's the biggest platform. It's, in my opinion, the best organization in the world. And I only set out to fight in the UFC from the get-go. That was a goal of mine. I didn't want to fight for any other organization. I got offered to, but it was UFC or nothing for me. And I'm here, and I'm so close to one of my goals. So I'm going to keep on going.
Yeah, obviously in a great spot here. And if you kind of look at your stats coming into this fight, 8 knockdowns in 5 featherweight fights. The only person with more knockdowns than you in the division is Jeremy Stephens, and he has about 3 times as many fights as you in this division. Do you think you're the biggest knockdown, hitting threat in this weight class right now?
Yeah, I've always said that. I feel like I'm the hardest hitting puncher in the featherweight division. Even I saw some other stats that just came out, and it was, in 15 minutes, I averaged 2.68 knockdowns, and that's number one spot. But no, I feel like the power I possess. I've been an athlete my entire life. I'm good at whatever I do, but I excelled at wrestling. I excel in mixed martial arts, and anything can happen in a fight. But I do feel like, yeah, I'm just the most athletic individual in the division as well.
So how do you balance that in terms of, approach and strategy in these fights? You obviously know that you can put anyone out with one shot, but you don't want to rely 100% on that and expecting it to happen. So when you're kind of balancing those things going into a fight, what's the approach there?
Just sticking to my game plan. I feel like I come from one of the best teams in the world for the lighter weights. I work with some of the best coaches in the world. And if I can just stick to a game plan, I can be 100% on, not make any mistakes in this 15 minutes. And the best me shows up Saturday night. No one in the world can beat me.
Awesome. And just last thing before I let you go here, we do have a featherweight title fight coming up here in just a few weeks. How do you think it goes down between Volkanovski and Holloway in their rematch?
Man, it's I was saying all along, I think, like, obviously Max is he was a phenomenal champion. He's they're saying he was the GOAT, and then Volkanovski comes in, and every time he fights, he does better and better. But I think stylistically, I was saying Volkanovski was going to win from the get-go, just because stylistically, I don't think that's a great matchup for Max. Don't get me wrong, anything can happen. I always say that in a fight, especially when they're standing, it's 50-50. But I think it's going to be the same outcome. Just from a stylistically point of view.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
That's all we have for you today, Josh. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
using the pandemic and what's called to not fight so they can save the number next to their name. A lot of these ranked fighters don't want to fight right now. They're just sitting out. Oh, I can't train during this quarantine. I'm like, you're a UFC fighter. You get a key to a gym. You could go in there and train. There's a lot of things you could do. But I feel like a lot of guys are just using this time to be lazy or just trying to save their spot. But you see other guys like Gilbert Burns fighting twice, ready fighting for the title. He's only been in the weight class literally for like 2 years, 4 fights, and now he's fighting for the title. It's just all about opportunity. And he was always ready for that opportunity. And that's what I want to be on. I'm healthy after this fight. I want to turn around right away and get back in there. You see guys like Dan Ige popping up right away, gives himself a main event. This is the time where you make a name for yourself, where we're the only sport on TV and people need something to watch, and they're going to be paying attention to the guys that are actually in there fighting.
I mean, there's been criticism of the rankings for a while and how much they really mean, but do you think this is going to change things moving forward? Maybe after this, people will be more willing to take those kind of opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the rankings are trash. But like you said, where nowadays guys are just so afraid to fight below them. I don't want to fight below me. I don't want to fight below me. And then now as you see Dana White's like, all right, well, we're moving on to the next guy. Masvidal didn't want to fight. Moving on to the next guy. So now, as you can see, like even guys with that big a name, they're willing to pass up on them. So if you're freaking 10 or 11, they won't hesitate to pass up on you. So if you're not willing to say yes, then either don't fight or get out of the rankings.
And last one for me, I mean, when the fight with Lyman originally fell through and he announces he's tested positive for COVID-19, I mean, was there any thought on your part of saying, you know what, just find me someone else? Maybe, I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get over it and just kind of moving on from it? Or was it important to hold on to this matchup?
No, I actually did I was looking for an opponent for April 18th card. When that card happened, that was like the craziest last week I've ever had. It was one of those where you don't know if the card's going to happen with everybody saying, oh, COVID. Don't let this card go through. Don't let this card go through. Then Lyman pulled out, and I was like, oh, crap. And then UFC was like, well, we're looking for an opponent. So then I was like, all right, cool. I don't really care who it is. They'll throw out names, and I'm saying yes to everybody. And then you're still getting family and friends. Hey, you're not on the card. You're not on the card. What the heck? And I'm like, yo, relax. They're trying to give me an opponent. And you're cutting weight, and then you're still dealing with, man, is the fight going to fall through? And then Khabib pulled out, and you're like, oh, crap. But then they've got Justin, so you're like, all right, you know what? The card's still going to go through. Justin's a great replacement. But it was kind of like a such a relief that the whole card just got canceled because it was literally fight week, and I was sitting there and had knowing who I'm fighting, not knowing if the fight card is going to happen, if it's going to get canceled on the day of, like the London card. But in the end, I thought they were going to end up giving me somebody else, but then they called me again, and they said,
Our last question comes from Stephen Morocco. Stephen, your line has been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. Just wanted to check in. What's going on with your father's store right now?
Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to shut it down after this. But we got other stuff where we're in the works with. Just opened up other doors for us, different opportunities for us. So we'll be all good.
What do you mean other opportunities?
I mean, now it gives us different places to now, my father built that store from the ground up, and it was one of those where he wanted to pass it on to his kids. And, the cell phone game, and then it was like a cell phone store. So in Chicago. But now we've always been looking into opening up different businesses, different this, different that. So now.
And looking up there, you said?
Yep.
Cool.
We are now joined by UFC lightweight Clay Guida. Clay, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. Even though I can't see you, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, our first question is from Gabriel Gonzalez with Cage Side Press.
Okay, go for it, Gabriel.
How you doing, Clay?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. Sorry for running late, guys. I had to go get my little, morning or noon run in, and I went over by the new, for all you NFL football fans out there, I went up by the new Raider Stadium. They call it Allegiant Stadium or something like that for the airlines. But for all you football fans, man, that is going to be the
coolest stadium in the NFL besides the one they're building in LA right now. So you guys got a lot to be excited about in Vegas, and all the Oakland fans are going to be coming down for games. It's pretty sweet.
You fought in a ton of places. What do you think about, being on a card in a place like that?
Oh, fighting in a stadium like that would be absolutely bananas, man. I think the biggest place I've ever fought, I have to say, was maybe might have been the United Center back home in Chicago. I think 25,000 capacity. Yeah, I can't think if I fought anywhere bigger than that. But yeah, I mean, to be on cards, like in Australia or when they did the huge one, I was actually cage side at the biggest one in Toronto, 65,000 seats. And when GSP fought Jake Shields and Randy Couture had one of his last fights. And I was actually sitting in the wrong seat and someone kind of bumped me on the shoulder and they're like, move over, Guida. And I look over to my right and it was Steven Seagal. And he was actually pretty cool. He started laughing. But yeah, that place was just absolutely insane. They brought multiple bleachers in just to fill the stadium. And me and my buddy, we were there watching the fights and we're looking around and I saw it up in the outfield. And there was hotel rooms in the stadium. I forgot that when the Blue Jays play there's actually hotel rooms, glass windows looking down into the stadium. So that's pretty sweet, man. But yeah, I would love to fight in front of a huge crowd someday. It's always been a dream of mine. The old Pride days at the Saitama Super Arena in Japan would be awesome. Yeah, it'd be cool to hear the fans chanting Guida in a big 50 or 80,000 person venue or something like that.
I'm glad you bring that up. Obviously, one of the biggest times where you got that big cheer was your fight with Diego Sanchez, which I don't know if anyone's told you, it'll be this Saturday's fight, 11 years to the date of that fight. Do you take anything from that kind of coincidence or that symmetry?
Hey, man, I'm glad you brought that up. I knew because last year when we had our Hall of Fame induction, thank you very much to the UFC. Thank you for Diego Sanchez because I couldn't have done that by myself, obviously. And it's amazing because it feels like that was just yesterday. And this whole fight week has been awesome. A lot of similarities to my UFC debut back in 2006 at UFC 64 at Mandalay Bay. And I got into my hotel room this week. I opened the window just to kind of see what my view was. And boom, first thing that popped out was Mandalay Bay. It's the only casino I can see from my from my hotel room. So that's pretty special. And then I just went for a run and I was by the Orleans, which is near the Palms, and some of my greatest fights, even though I didn't get my hand raised, the Huerta fight, the Diego Sanchez fight, the Anthony Pettis fight, those will be ones that people always remember. And it's there's so many reminders, of the beginning of my career and all the cool things, all the cool experiences, the people, the relationships, the fans that we've met, the places we've been, places we've traveled to. One thing I took from the Diego Sanchez fight is what my coach and my brother were telling me all camp. Don't back up, dummy. Don't back up. And what did I do at the very beginning of the fight? Diego rushed me, and I just kind of backpedaled, and then came the onslaught, and he just, that barrage of punches and knees and kicks, and he opened me up, and then the kick heard around the world. So I definitely take several things from that fight, but that was one where the whole tide of the fight changed immediately. And, I thank him for that because he taught me a valuable lesson, and that probably got the fight of the year, nod just because of that exchange right there. So thanks, Diego. We're coming up on 11 years, man. Pretty amazing. We're still going at it.
Hey, thank you, Clay.
Thank you, sir.
Our next question is from Mike Bond with USA Today Sports.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, good, Clay. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks a lot for having me on the show, man.
No worries at all. I'm curious how excited you were when this fight with Bobby came back across the table. Obviously, you were supposed to fight UFC 225, and it didn't happen. And I know you were pretty upset. You did talk some trash. You called him a coward, Bobby Yellow, all that kind of stuff. Do you still hold any of that resentment towards him?
Nah, that's one thing. I've never been personal, you know what I mean, with my opponents. I don't know them well enough to dislike them. I don't dislike anybody, you know what I mean? Life is too short for that. I know it's going to be a dogfight. I know Bobby's going to come prepared. He's going to come ready because I know he wants this fight too. And he's a gamer, you know what I mean? He comes to put on a show. He's flashy. He's excuse me, good striker, good wrestler, good athlete, and it's going to be a great fight, man. It's a bummer that he's had to back out of a few fights, a couple against my coach Danny Castillo. So I'm getting this one. I'm doing this one for the team. There's some payback. We were going to put on a show in Chicago, but hey, it's better to be back here in Vegas and on my 30th UFC fight. So I'm super pumped about this matchup, and I know he's going to bring his best game.
Yeah. So at the time, was it just frustration that you had lost a fight, maybe uncertainty around that, and it kind of just came out a little bit towards him?
Oh man, it's just hyping up the fight. That's all. You know what I mean? To me, the only ones we're hyping up are the main events. You know what I mean? When they're talking trash, because those are the ones that get all the eyeballs on it anyway. So, yeah, we're ready to rock and roll come Saturday night.
Cool. And I'm curious, one last thing, the elements going into this fight on Saturday. You're a guy who feeds off the energy of a fight night, of a crowd, all that kind of stuff. None of that is going to be there on Saturday. How do you think that's going to impact you, from a mental perspective, from your energy in the cage, all that stuff?
Yeah, you make a good point, man. But I tell you what, we got people coming, we call it the Guida Mafia, friends, family, teammates, relatives, coaches, kids I've coached from coast to coast are coming out to Vegas. And don't be surprised to hear that Guida chant throughout the strip, throughout downtown Vegas, all over the place, man. I know it'll be silent there, but I know each and every one of our fans and friends, family members, they're going to be right there with me like they always are, man. So we put on a show for the fans. It'll be kind of cool to be able to tune them out a little bit and focus on the coaches. But that's one thing I think sets real competitors apart and the best athletes apart from the rest, is being able to focus on, the task at hand. And I've always been able to hear, my head coaches and my brother, my cornerman, even when we're fighting in a jam-packed stadium like Vegas, or Anaheim, the Duck Pound, I fought Ben Henderson, you know what I mean? It's just, that's really what sets, the best apart from the rest. So I'm pumped that everyone's going to be out here. And to me, it'll be like, I'm sure you've heard this a lot. I grew up, from a lot of wrestlers. But yeah, I grew up in a small little village where there'd only be maybe 10 people in the entire gymnasium. So it'll be like that, or just another sparring session at the gym, man. So task at hand, get the hand raised, and just go out and have fun like we always do.
Yeah, and one more, actually. Do you think the small cage benefits you? Because I know you fought there before, right? I like the palms and stuff. So you're a little more familiar with this environment than a lot of these other fighters will be.
Yeah, well, my last fight here was against Anthony Pettis, and I believe it's that same 25-foot WEC cage. So it definitely favors me. Everyone knows I like to close that distance and make it a dog fight. So come Saturday night, you guys will see.
Cool. Thanks, Clay.
Thank you, sir.
Next question is from Damon Martin with MMA Fighting.
Yo, what's up, Damon? How you been, man?
I'm good, Clay. How are you?
Very well. Great to hear from you, man.
Absolutely. So I kind of follow what Mike said there. You are a guy, we all kind of wish we could bottle your energy going into a fight. But do you feel like that actually will help you, going in, coming out to your music and Jason, giving you a couple slaps? Like, you always have that energy, and I know you do feed off the crowd, but do you feel like that will help you, that you always are you always keep that energy going into a fight? Because some people have said it is weird walking out without a crowd and not having people cheering, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's only going to benefit us. You know what I mean? I'm able to channel that aggression, channel that excitement, into my coaches, into the fight. And you guys know how I get. Sometimes the walkout is more fun and more exciting than some of my fights. You know what I mean? So that minute or 90 seconds, however long that walkout is, man, to me, it's I say it all the time. It's a rock concert. I'm the lead singer. I'm the sound guy. I'm the drummer. I'm the lead guitarist. You know what I mean? I'm the manager. I'm security. That's my concert. That's my stage. And nothing's going to change, man. I'm going to lead the dance come Saturday night, with or without a crowd. I know people be cheering across the country, across the world for us. And the fact that it's on ESPN, I just found out. I thought we were going to be on ESPN Plus. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm pretty sure the whole card's on ESPN. So I'm pretty pumped about that. It's awesome.
Yep, you are on ESPN. That's true. With that being said, you're a guy, Clay, you've been around the sport and been fighting at the top of the sport for so long and so many years. I had this conversation with Jim Miller about a week ago. Like, what do you feel like separates guys like you and Jim and maybe a Joe Lozon, those guys who have been around, continue to fight the best guys in the world, and have a career? You mentioned you debuted in 2006. I mean, we got to be honest, the guys who were fighting at that same time in 2006, the list of guys still fighting in the UFC today is very, very slim.
You know what? That's a great point you make, man. and I can attest it to just simple toughness, durability, and a never say die attitude. If it's something you really love, you're always going to keep passion for it. You're never going to let that die, that tradition. And that tradition started years ago when I was 6 years old in the sport of wrestling. I got in this before I even knew, you could make money at it. I used to call it vending machine money when I used to fight on, some of these old Midwest organizations, the Extreme Challenge. Monty Cox would give me and my brother what I call vending machine money. We would get like $50 after a night of fights. You know what I mean? And that was literally all we could spend it on, man. We would go right to the vending machine at the little hotel that we would be put up at, in Minnesota or Iowa or Indiana or Wisconsin or somewhere in Illinois. So obviously the first passion, the first thing is always, it's got to be, you got to love the sport. You got to really, want to do this for, first for the love of it, then, second, make a living. And we've been very fortunate to, have some success at this. And number one, the sport of wrestling has gotten me here. It's kept me here. And I feel like I can speak on behalf of guys like Jim Miller, you know what I mean? Who is, I've looked up to for so long. I was lucky to get in there and, have a short go at it with him. And, Jim's one of those guys, Donald Cerrone's he's got 30, I think most 34, 35 fights between him and, Jim Miller. They have the most fights ever. It just comes down to mental toughness. And, I've had 1,000 wrestling matches in my life just about. So it's at the end of the day, it's all about wrestling, man.
And last question to that point. We see the videos you training out with the guys at Team Alpha Male. You're still in there. You still love it. Seems like you always have a smile on your face. Would you say your passion for the sport now is just as great as it's ever been? Yeah, absolutely. What Uriah Faber has done, I call it the MMA Mecca, or his gym, the Mecca of MMA. What he's done over there, and not to mention we've got a new 12,000 square foot addition. So it's literally one of the biggest gyms and probably in the country. I think we're pushing 40,000 square feet. And what he's done for the sport, what he's done for his members, what he's done for the city of Sacramento is astronomical. You know what I mean? To see guys not just come from around the U.S., but people come from all walks of life, all over the country. All over the world to come and train with Team Alpha Male, and that speaks volumes, for Uriah, for the brand that he's created. And what? He's never asked for a penny from anybody. He's always done it just out the goodness of his heart. And being there for the last 5 years is really helped, get me to that next level, that next stage of my career. And that's what's going to keep me here for a while. It's the pedigree of wrestling, you know what I mean? He runs it like a college wrestling room because he wrestled in college, and that's what I really needed to be around. It's just fun. I love working out with those guys, and we're all very like-minded, and we push each other to extreme limits, you know what I mean? And we know we can beat anybody, and that's the place to do it. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you so much, D.
Our last question is from Alistair Bishop with MMA Republic.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
How's it going?
Very, very well. Thank you. How about you?
Fantastic. Thank you. The first question's from South Africa. We want to know when we're going to see Fins and Feathers out here in South Africa.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that one more time? Oh, when are we doing? You say when are you doing a Fins and Feathers in Africa?
Yes, sir.
We're going to have to talk to Chad Money Mendez, my business partner, teammate, about that one, man. I would love to come down there. I know Chad's hunted some exotic game out in New Zealand. I think Red Stag, him and TJ Dillashaw. And he's hunted all over the country, and I believe a few different countries as well. So I would love to come on that trip. I'm just starting now to learn to hunt. I've only gone on a couple of hog hunting trips, and they were both super cool. I feel very spoiled. I got to do my first one in Florida with my dad, my daughter, her stepdad, my nephew, my brother-in-law, and we got to shoot these hogs out of swamp buggies. They're like these cool looking, they look like rock climbing, like outer space moonwalker like mobiles, man. So those are pretty sweet. And then my next one was on a Fins and Feathers trip. Chad Mendez asked me to go on a helicopter hog hunt for him because he couldn't make it. So we got to go out to this amazing ranch near Austin, Texas, in the middle of nowhere. And I shot pigs from a helicopter. Pretty sweet. It was like a video game, man. Yeah, it was like cheating, man. I would definitely I'll run that one across Chad and look us up sometime. Shoot us an email. Shoot him a message on his Instagram or whatever. Shoot him on his email, and maybe we'll come down to Africa, man.
Fantastic, sir. Just want to ask about this more recent part of your career. BJ Penn, Jim Miller. You had a little session in the quintet. Gregor Gracie, Renato Sobral. It just seems like you've carried through this excitement and just generally having a good time. So what are the fights that you're looking for that will really get you excited at this point in your career?
Yeah, you know what? That's a very good question, because it seems like lately I've been just fighting veterans for as long as I can remember now. I don't remember fighting like a new up and comer, and I think maybe the UFC, they like to pair me against them because they know it's going to be an exciting fight. They kind of like to keep guys that have been a name in the sport, a household name, whatever you want to call it. They want to match them up together because they know we're going to put on a show. And man, it was an honor. Yeah, I got to say, BJ was probably one of my favorite victories, man. And to be in there, obviously he's fought everybody. He was, I believe, the first two-time champion. I think it went him and Randy Couture back to back, in two different weight classes. Not to mention, he fought my original coach, Joey Gilbert, in their UFC debut, their UFC bout. And so it was cool to watch my career come full circle. Joey fought him at the beginning of their career, and I'm fighting him. And that was one of BJ's last fights in the UFC. So it's pretty special to me. Jim Miller was to fight a veteran like him who's good at everything was incredible. And then I got asked on short notice to do that quintet ultra, the Sakuraba grappling event. And I've never, a lot of people don't know this. That was the first time I've grappled competitively, and I might be one of the only humans that has ever grappled a Gracie member family, in their first time ever, you know what I mean? When there's points on the board and things like that. So that alone was, I had to step up my game, man. And that was an honor to compete against the Gracie. And then, of course, I went against Renato Babalu Sobral, who was like 240 pounds, and I was like 165. So it was like me going against my brother, but he's way bigger. And that was super special. And to be on that stage in Vegas during fight week, New Year's week, pretty much, so many, legends in the crowd. Fabricio Verdun was right there. All the guys that were competing, Mark Munoz was there. My buddy, Chad Mendes was competing. Jay-Z Cavalcante, Sakuraba, Yves Edwards. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It was incredible. Anthony Johnson, Anthony Smith. It was Mark Coleman came in there at the end. You know what I mean? He was like, "No way, this is the coolest thing ever." Like you could tell he was so pumped. He wanted to jump in there and compete too. So events like that are great. I really wish we could do more of those, because something, even when I hang up the gloves in MMA, I'm always going to continue to coach wrestling and get on the mats with, with my students, with the kids that coach, as long as I can. And one thing I would love to do is, still compete in grappling, because it's an addiction. It keeps you in shape. It's fun, and it's competitive. You know what I mean? So that drives me. But getting back to your question, some fights I would love to have in the future. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll never back down on this one. Nate Diaz has got it coming to him someday. I beat his ass once. I'll beat his ass again. If he ever, toes the line and they stop protecting him, my number, Nate. So don't be scared, homie. You know where we're at, buddy.
Fantastic. Last one from me, Clay. You spoke about fights with Diego Sanchez and those real hard-hitting fights that we've seen throughout your career. What do you think has been the key to your longevity after going through such kind of heavy fights?
What was the question? What's the key to my longevity in the sport after so many fights like Diego Sanchez and fights like that? Is that what it was?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I attested all to I owed all the sport of wrestling. Wrestling, from a young age, it teaches you durability. You know what I mean? It teaches you mental toughness. It teaches you confidence that you can bring into life, not just on the mat, but in the business world, in your family life, every facet of life. And builds mental toughness, physical toughness, fitness, you're healthy. Faber says it all the time. Health is the ultimate wealth, and I believe wrestling teaches you those values at a young age that you carry with you through your entire life. And being smart, taking care of my body properly, and never laying off that gas pedal. You know what I mean? It's I'm either getting ready for a fight, or I'm coaching wrestling, or I'm staying in shape, or I'm traveling I'm always doing physical activity. I'm fishing. I'm on the water. I'm chasing around my daughter. Hanging with my nieces and nephews. I'm on the wrestling mat with these kids, and constantly, it's constant evolution. And I think it's good, to stay physically fit. Through those ways that are fun, that are active, and putting in the. I get to perform come Saturday night. That's what it's all about. I want to put the best show on for you guys because you guys, spend your hard-earned money on it, and the least I can do is, give you guys a good show. That's what you deserve.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. All the best for Saturday night.
Thank you so much, man. Cheers.
That's all we have for you today, Clay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Up next, we will be joined by number 7 ranked UFC heavyweight Alexander Volkov. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions.
Like, gives us the opportunity to actually do that thing. Otherwise, you're sitting there procrastinating, like, oh, we still got the cell phone store, we still got this. We always have that to fall back on. But now,
We are now joined by number 7 ranked UFC heavyweight Alexander Volkov. Volkov, thank you for joining us.
Well,
Our first question is from Gabriel Gonzalez with Cage Side Press.
Hello, Alexander. This may seem like a bit of a naive question. We know you're from Russia, but do you live out in the United States?
You live full-time in Russia. Yes, if you live in the U.S. or Russia.
no, I'm living in Russia, and I come for US for some camps or no, some camps close to the fight.
I ask because obviously, international travel is such a big subject. Everyone's wondering, if you don't live in the US, do you need a fight on Fight Island? So can I ask, when did you come out to California to train at Black House and be able to take the fight in Vegas?
I came about 9 days ago, so it was June 10. I was in California, and we start doing some practice here and in Black House. So now I'm feeling good to be here.
Is there going to be any difficulty? Do you need to quarantine for 2 weeks when you get home or anything else after the fight?
I don't really know right now. I need this or not. But we tested here a lot of times. So we tested here maybe 4 or 3 times in the UFC. I'm not worried to get positive test here. I don't really understand now how I get back to Moscow, and what will be with the quarantine. Probably we'll see.
I understand. Thank you for that. On Curtis Blaydes, a lot of people feel like, his wrestling is the big threat to Alexander Volkov. Can you explain for yourself, why is the fight not that simple? Why is it not just his wrestling against your striking?
Because of my fights, when I fight, I meet a lot of wrestlers. So maybe half or more of my fights, people want to take me down and doing something with me on the ground. So I'm really used to it, to be pushed by wrestlers and I work on my takedown defense skills, all my camps. So this is one of my good size really, because I'm all people trying to take me down. I really good with this with time. I'm here in professional sport more than 3 years, and more than 3 years I meet and challenge wrestlers in the cage and ring and everywhere. So for me, it's not a big deal to fight with him because of his wrestle skills. But I respect this for sure. He is one of the best in it. And this make for me this challenge really interesting and interesting to all fans.
Final one from me. Who do you think wins between Stipe and Daniel Cormier in August?
I think probably Stipe Miocic. I will go for him. I think he will be better motivated for this fight.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in now. So the heavyweight division, obviously, we have the trilogy coming up, and now you have this fight with Curtis. Do you think this is an opportunity, this fight, to put yourself right in that title picture when the fight's done, the trilogy's done?
Not so quick, please.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because
the trilogy fight between Stipe and DC. DC's mentioned he may retire after the fight, win or lose or whatever it may be. Do you think that you will have the opportunity, if you Curtis, to be in that title match?
For really, it will be really good if something like this happens. But now I'm really concentrated on my fight with Curtis Blaydes. Is main things, and he's my main opponent right now. After this, we will see how it will go. But of course, it will be the chance like this. For sure, I will use it.
He seems like Curtis's striking has been improving. Is that something that you've seen from him when you and your team have studied him?
Did Curtis, from the different fights, better striking now than before?
It's looking like this. Of course, he working about this is like me. In my first fight, I have zero grappling skills, and now I'm very comfortable with it, and I work on it very much. So, of course, all of fighters trying to be best in every side, and Curtis too. He doing great. But the key of his success in wrestling also is that people avoid his success in striking. That the people avoid his wrestle skills. He trying to go back and open his head for his punch, because he trying to push, trying to fake with some wrestle skills. We know this. We're trying to do something good job with this, and don't give him trying to pressure me in octagon and take it back.
Were you impressed with his knockout win over Junior Dos Santos?
It was good, yes. I like this fight. It was a really smart fight, interesting fight with Junior. So it's pretty a lot of things that we can look from this fight about Curtis Blaydes.
Why do you think fans should be excited to watch this fight?
For sure, they do. For sure they will, because first of all, this is challenge between wrestler and striker. Second one, this challenge between American and Russian. So this two things is very exciting for all people all over the world in this time when there are no shows, there are no sports. So this will be a big fight with two opposite sides, and it will be really interesting.
My last question is there anything that you feel like you need to prove or show in this fight?
I don't feel that I need to prove something to anybody. I just want to show a good fight, to show good quality of my fighting skills, show myself what how I develop through the time with my skills. So it's more just for me. It's a challenge just for me.
I'm good, Carol.
Our next question is from Georgi Kokiachvili from Ajara Sport.
Oh, Alexander, hello. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
We already know that you are the real knockout machine and you're proving your name, Drido, but what can you say about your wrestling styles, or do you have any skills with Russian Sambo or something like that?
Thank you for naming me knockout machine. It's really appreciated this. I work a lot in jiu-jitsu, in Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Moscow. We have a big team, one of the strongest, biggest in Moscow, Strela team, who playing jiu-jitsu, who work on jiu-jitsu. So I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and I'm working for this about more than 10 years. So all my fights and when I fight, I trying to learn more in wrestling and jiu-jitsu and everything. So I'm feeling good in jiu-jitsu, and my coaches say that I'm really good in it, and I have to not worry about it.
Oh, and my second question is about Petrian and his title shot. What can you say about Petr and his fight against Jose Aldo?
Petrian is a really good fighter. He's really hard working in trainings. He do a lot of work. He like ultra motivated fighter, and he also young. I think he will use this opportunity to fight in title shot on the full, and I think in his in his ability to win this fight.
Oh, thank you. Beside all political issues between Georgia and Russia, I wish you all the best on Saturday. We are neighbors at all.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you today, Alexander. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to finish. It's really hard to speak English. Thank you so much.
Up next, we will be joined by number 10 ranked UFC featherweight Shane Burgos. Please use the hand icon if you wish to ask any questions, and don't forget to take down your hand once you are done.
Makes us push on the gas more a little about doing different things and getting into different markets. So other small businesses, things like that.
Gotcha. And what do you think overall of the success of the Black Lives Matter movement in your community?
I mean, it's not really successful until big changes happen. So it's not a community. Yeah, it's awesome, man.
We are now joined by number 10 ranked UFC featherweight Shane Burgos. Shane, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
Our first question is from Jay Anderson with Cateside Press.
Thanks very much, and welcome back, Shane. I mean, you've talked about 2020 being your year to leap into contention. Any worry that that might be complicated by the pandemic, or do you expect that now that we're back up and running, things are going to be back to business as usual?
Yeah, in the beginning of the year, I was a little worried about that, but I got this fight booked. This is a big one, and I feel like I'll be able to squeeze in at least one more before the end of the year. So I think it'll be smooth sailing after this one. I think UFC's got a well-oiled machine, and this is going to be the third biggest show, and after this one, I think they'll be able to keep rolling them out.
This is your first co-main event in the UFC, so how does that feel?
It's awesome. It's aside from the actual matchup that I'm excited for, I'm excited that I'm the co-main event.
And I mean, Josh is up there in the rankings. You guys are pretty close together, but do you think a win here could potentially land you maybe a top 5 opponent for your next outing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely could. I got to go out there and not just win, though. Like I've been saying all week in all my interviews, basically, I got to go out there and put a stamp on this one. I got to make a statement. as corny and cliche as it sounds, I got to go out there and I got to not just beat Josh Emmett, but I gotta beat Josh Emmett. I got to finish him.
And yeah, I did see you talking about getting the finish. How much do you think the smaller cage will play into that? Does that create more of a possibility for getting that big finish?
Yeah, 100%. It forces the action. I love the small cage. All my career before the UFC was always in the small cage. I trained in the small cage. Basically, when the referee says go, you're fighting because it's only about 10 feet between you and your opponent right off the bat. So I love it.
And last one for me, I mean, the complicating factor for a lot of fighters heading into these events is the fact that training camp hasn't necessarily looked like normal. You've got social distancing regulations. Every state's a little different. So what does things look like for you?
It's been smooth sailing the entire time. When our MMA gym closed, our Target Showman's headquarters closed, we basically moved our training to my strength conditioning coach's gym, I believe Elite Athletic Training in Monroe. Moved it all there. We had mats there, so we were doing all our MMA training there and then doing our strength and conditioning there. And I basically had most of the same partners. So it's been a seamless transition once the gym reopened. We were already, all cylinders were already firing.
All right, well, good to hear it, and looking forward to the event on Saturday.
Thank you, brother. What am I looking at, this camera or that camera? This one, okay.
I think that's all we have for you today, Shane. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Take that.